and then the highs of baseball cricket. England bowled out for just 172 in the shortest Ashes first innings since 1902. But Aussie captain Steve Smith may be left in tears once again after his side's performance. John Norman's been watching for us.
Absolutely incredible day of Test cricket. What drama and excitement from the first over when Zach Crawley was dismissed without England scoring a run to pretty much the last over. Scott Boland becoming the fifth wicket to fall thanks to Ben Stokes in the penultimate over of the day. In between that, a lot of wickets and not many runs. Harry Brook, the only man to go past 50, and not one Australian batter reached 30. Is this going to be a bowling friendly and bowling dominated Ashes series? That's how it was predicted, and if the first day is anything to go by, that is exactly what is in store over the course of the next 6 weeks. England bowled out for 172 stumps on day one. Australia trailing by 49, 123 for 9.
Thanks, John. For all your Ashes content, subscribe to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and the following on podcast feed. Elsewhere, Arne Slot's been speaking ahead of the return of the Premier League tomorrow. He'll be without Connor Bradley and Florian Wirtz for Liverpool's first game against Forest. The manager says winning the league is the last thing on his mind right now and that we have to wait until at least halfway into the season before we judge him. And Ian Wright says Jude Bellingham frightens certain people because of how much of an inspiration he is. The former Arsenal striker doesn't think some people are ready for a black superstar after the criticism Bellingham received this week. Jermaine Pennant agrees.
Passionate when he puts on his Real Madrid shirt. Passionate when he plays for England. He gives it his all every time he steps across the line. And like you said, so what if he sometimes his attitude can look a bit off, but he wants to win. He's a winner.
There's more at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Ministers say investment in artificial intelligence could be a key role in future pandemic planning following that scathing COVID inquiry review. And typical household energy bills are on the up from January after an unexpected rise in the price cap. There's more from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. With a huge range of premium brands available, we've got what you need to drive away happy every time. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
A bright, dry day for most with light winds, a few showers across Kent, clearing during the morning, sunny spells later.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals and taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Hello, very good morning to you. It is Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and the former Chelsea defender Scott Minto in the building this morning. We're live on talkSPORT. So the Premier League returns this weekend and with a North London derby to boot. Can Arsenal still run their mind the gap mantra with Tottenham Hotspur? Meanwhile, a former England striker Ian Wright does not think that some people are ready for a black superstar following the media treatment of Jude Bellingham. We ask if he has a point. Also today, Rob Edwards returns to Wolves. Do Liverpool need to spend more to save a Champions League spot? And it's been 4 years since Manchester United sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Has anything changed? You're listening to Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Scott Minto. We're here till 1. Hello, very good morning to you. By the way, I have to say, it's a brilliant day to be here. Beautiful sunshine outside. It was a bit crisp when I left Manchester at 5:30 this morning, but boy, what a beautiful day outside. And delighted to have you both in the studio at the time the show starts. Thank you very much for coming in. Much appreciated.
Well, I didn't know at 8 o'clock this morning whether I'd be on or not, but I've come off the bench again.
Just as you did when you were playing, you were always the ever-dependable last-minute replacement.
Hang out of order.
It's lucky he lives downstairs and it just waiting. when Troy doesn't turn up.
It just hangs around on a Friday just in case.
Do you know what?
I was just having a coffee actually across the road.
At least it was earlier than a 10 to 10 I got about a month ago. You're on air in 10 minutes.
Now, I don't want to do this, but as you know, I am FA Sam, and I stick to the rules, right? I stick to the rules. Now, Troy has been referred to the disciplinary committee after his late show yesterday, and last week, and his non-attendance today. Crook, missing a show is one thing. And I know you're going to plead your innocence here, saying I booked the day off and I gave everybody notice.
Yeah.
But knowing that your mate was sitting here struggling.
I didn't know that.
Hold on. Sitting here struggling and about to go on air alone, sending a picture of you enjoying a pint of Guinness at 9:59 a.m. is officially ungentlemanly conduct. Yellow card.
Can I just say, when I sent that photo, I wasn't aware. And do you know what? He didn't talk to me all day. I had to message him about 3 o'clock and said, why are you not talking to me? I booked the day off.
Hey, don't start.
And by the way,
I'll tell you what,
He's got the red.
Second yellow comes out. You know what's following.
By the way,
be careful.
this time next year,
oh, right, okay.
it'll be exactly the same situation.
episode of Only Fools.
book the cover now.
Right.
Unless you want to come to the November meeting.
No,
I know you're trying to get in on that.
I've told you, if you're gonna, you don't just take a day off to go racing. This is a job.
Not just any racing, it's Cheltenham.
Well, then we'll all go together and we'll do the show from there. You don't just take a day off.
Sam, I was in Portugal, and
yes, you were.
I'm a corporate man. I was always try to listen to you when I can, and I'm like, oh my God, he's on his own.
Yeah, left alone.
I didn't know he sent a picture of
he was out of order.
Guinness.
It was.
Mind you, it's a little bit.
Seen some of the other pictures he sent after.
Probably about his third Guinness if it was 10 o'clock in the morning.
Well, by the way, it doesn't look like you've been to Portugal.
Do you know what? He's so annoying, this guy, and you know why, Sam. So I had a gig out in Lisbon in Estoril for a couple of days, and I thought, you know, it'd be really nice where I used to live in Cascais, have 3 more days. It absolutely teamed down every single day. So I'm sending pictures back to you two. So what does he do? He comes the following week where it's like 20 degrees, blue sky. He's pictures of him in the swimming pool and in the ocean as well.
Tell me about it. Just remember, though, it is Crookie's world and we're just living in it.
That's true.
Right, it's been a hell of a first day at the Ashes in Perth. England all out for 172. Mitchell Starc ripping through the top order and beyond with career best figures of 7 for 58. Jofra Archer trapped Weatherall's second ball LBW as England tried to fight back with the ball. And they did, to be fair. The Aussies ended up 129 for 9 at the close of play and trail England by 49 runs. David Lloyd is with us and he joins us to review the first day. Bumble, afternoon to you, morning to you, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thanks very much. I'm in North Yorkshire at the minute and I'm absolutely reeling about Guinness at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, so was I. There's so much that it's difficult to ask you to sum up a day's play quite like that. I mean, absolutely fascinating. So can we start with England's batting, which looked from the outside looking in to be pretty reckless and pretty poor? What was your assessment?
Well, if you look at, they've gone at 4+ and over, 5+ and over. They've assessed the situation. They won the toss and batted first. I made a call straight away into Perth. What's this pitch like? 3 words, green and fast. So England played the way that they have done and went rocketing after them. Mitchell Starc gets 7 wickets. And then you look at Australia, the way they played, they were going at 2 and over. There's going to be a ball that comes down with your name on it at 2 and over. You've got to be proactive. You've got to be aggressive. So I think England have got everything right so far.
How important was that second ball delivery from Jofra Archer after the innings that England had with the bat? How important was it to come out fighting as they did?
Well, they were on the money straight away. And when you've got an opener who's on his debut, you're going to go after him. And you're going to go after him with real quality. Ball it fast, ball it straight. He got his LBW. So England were away straight away. They'd have been after him straight away. And Khawaja didn't open the batting. He bats at number 4. Labuschagne comes up to open. Smith bats at 3. I think they're a little bit at 6s and 7s.
Brian Carsh getting key wickets. How impressed with you with him?
Yeah, and you look at the team that was selected, it looked all along that they were going to play Bashir. But go back to that pitch, fast and green. They've left Bashir out, the off-spinner, and they've played 5 quality, big, strapping fast bowlers. They've got the tools.
England obviously a little bit disappointed with a couple of the batters. Crawley, a little bit disappointing, played a shot they maybe shouldn't have done. And Joe Root out early as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about Joe Root, and they're going to stick with Crawley all the way through because they think he can change a game. Joe Root has got all the quality, all the experience that they're not going to keep him quiet. And Joe Root all along has said that we're here to win. It's not about an individual, it's about a team effort to win. I think they're going about the business really well. And then you come to the captain, absolutely irresistible. Ben Stokes comes in and he rifles a fiver.
Brilliant.
It looks very unlikely that this is going to go the distance now. Are we looking at a 3-day test, maybe even a 2-day test, do you think? Is this going to continue, these wickets tumbling?
Well, Alex, they love a day off. They really love a day off, these England boys, because they get playing golf. Everybody gets upset about them playing golf. They love it. And so the quicker game, and from a commentator's viewpoint, a fast game is a great game.
Yeah, they're not the only ones that like a day off, are they, Crook? Scott, you were going to say?
Yeah, no, Bumble, I was just going to ask you, how important psychologically is this first test? Obviously, it could go either way. We've seen it before in Ashes test, especially in Australia, where if it hasn't gone well and we've kind of got battered. So how important is it to win this first one?
This is absolutely massive, Scott, because there's been so much noise. I've never heard so much noise before an Ashes series, and it gets a bit nasty at times, which you expect. And from a playing point of view, you guys will know that you just shut that noise out. You get on with your business. So it's imperative that they start well, and they've done that on day one, get into day one and announce yourself, put a flag down. They've done exactly that. Now they've got to stick with it, clean this innings up. The third innings, when we talk about cricket and test match cricket, your third innings is vulnerable. So they've got to make sure that they've had a long time in the third innings, because this is going to come along really quick, to give the bowlers a rest, to have another go at Australia in that fourth innings.
Bumble, thank you very much. Appreciate that. That was Bumble's review of the first day's play. Australia 123 for 9, trailing by 49 at stumps on day one in Perth. An absolute blockbuster of a first day. Mitchell Starc, brilliant with the ball. Jofra Archer coming out all guns blazing. Ben Stokes doing a fantastic job as well. And of course, the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel is the place to be for all the fallout to the first day of the Ashes. Did you get up to watch the first ball, by the way?
No.
Didn't think you would.
No.
Do you know what?
I do love my cricket.
Because I was getting up at 4:45 this morning. I didn't get up to watch the first ball, but it was quite good, actually, getting back and being able to watch the highlights, go scroll through and do all the wickets.
It was funny seeing all the emotions, because, as you know, I'm part of a cricket team, even though I'm rubbish and I never play. I'm there for the social, but they were all very dejected.
You haven't played cricket for about 2 years.
But I am going to the Christmas do, of course, next weekend.
Do you bat? Well, there's a shot.
Doesn't do anything.
Bat, bowl, field.
I like fielding.
12th man?
I like fielding. Yeah, I can't bowl, honestly. But what I was going to say was, on that WhatsApp group, they were all in despair when they woke up and saw that England had been bowled out. They're a lot more confident now. It was quite interesting watching the swing of emotions.
Yeah, it was. And do you know what? In that WhatsApp group that we're in together, there was people moaning in the first hour or so, but then obviously everything's come back around again now. Right, okay, lots to talk about this morning. In fact, loads to talk about with the return of the Premier League. Burnley against Chelsea is live tomorrow, 12:30 on talkSPORT. Crook and I are going to the North London derby on Sunday for Game Day Live. But there's still a little bit of hangover from the international break. The draw for the World Cup qualifiers was made yesterday. We'll have a look at the potential opponents for Wales, Northern Ireland, and the Republic next.
welcome to talkSPORT Goals and taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's Sam Matterface alongside Alex Crook. We've also got Scott Minto here, late sub off the bench to replace Troy Deeney, who's not here today. We're going to speak to Gabby Agbonlahor in just a moment. And the reason for that is the question that was raised yesterday by our friend Ian Wright. Are some sections of society afraid of a black superstar? That was the suggestion this week made by Wrighty on the Stick to Football podcast in response to some of the coverage surrounding Jude Bellingham. Specifically, this was amplified by the reporting of Bellingham's reaction to be substituted on Sunday night, which ranged from, well, you wouldn't be pleased if he was delighted to come off, which was something that we tackled on our podcast, to suggestions that he should be left at home for the World Cup. Now, Wrighty said this: I don't think they're ready for a black superstar who can move like Jude is moving. They can't touch him. He goes out there, he performs, he does what he does. It's too uppity for these people. I'll put it in football terms. They all love N'Golo Conte. He's a humble black man who gets on with what he's doing. But if you're a Pogba or a Bellingham, you get that kind of energy. That does not sit well with people. So someone like Jude, for some reason, frightens people because of his capability and the inspiration he can give. If you're outspoken, black, and playing to that kind of level and not caring, that frightens certain people. Now, before we get Scott's response, Alex's response, and that of Gabby Agbonlahor, let's hear from Bellingham talking last year on his documentary, Out of the Floodlights.
They always need someone to be the bad guy, someone to be the scapegoat, and I think it seems like it's going to be me, you know, and whether people think I played well or not, I give absolutely everything for my country and from the team. People talk about my body language all the time. I get frustrated because I want to win. I don't like losing. The only thing I care about is the team and the team winning. The only thing I care about. It's the only thing I want in football is to be able to win trophies, plonk them on tables and go and party with the lads that I've just suffered and sacrificed for and with. That's all I care about in football. So when people make stuff like that, that's what hurts me the most. You know, it becomes a little bit personal. You know, I've seen stuff about why I haven't done press interviews and stuff like that, and is something wrong with me? And it hurts a little bit, I'm not going to lie, because I know that it hurts my parents, I know that it hurts my brother, I know that my friends get hurt by it.
Let's speak to Gabriel Agbonlahor, talkSPORT breakfast host, who joins us now. Hi, Gabby.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Look, Wrighty made these comments on the Stick to Football podcast this week, and he is a man who's experienced racism. He emerged at a time in football where racial slurs were openly slung around in the stands. Does what he said about the coverage of Jude resonate with you?
I think for me, when I look at it, Sam, I look at over the years. I remember Raheem Sterling. There was a story in the paper about Raheem Sterling. I think it might have been when he brought a family member a house. And the way the headline was put was as a negative. And then I think it was Phil Foden done the exact same thing. And it was a positive. You're a great child. You're real fantastic. So you see the narrative from certain parts of the media. And Ian Wright is the perfect person to speak about it because he's been through it, especially during his era. And let's be honest, we're not blind. We can see what's going on. You know, a certain journalist has been gunning for Jude Bellingham, and it's non-stop. It's becoming obsessive. And I've spoke about it many times, and I've heard he wants to come and debate on the breakfast show with me, but I'm not interested in debating with him because just let the lad play his football. We are forcing it now. Certain journalists are forcing a negative narrative around one of our best players in the national team.
Raheem Sterling was mentioned in the chat that Gary Neville had with Ian Wright as well. The pre-Gareth years were sort of cited where Raheem is crying out for help, that he believes he's being judged because of his colour rather than because of his footballing ability. Do you think you were ever judged differently as a footballer because of your colour?
Listen, for me, I was quite lucky during my career. I didn't feel like that at all, I have to be honest, during my career. I had one incident against Millwall where racially abused whilst I was on the bench warming up, but I've never experienced it from the media, no. But you can feel Raheem Sterling's pain when you watch that clip and you hear about what he spoke to Gary Neville about, because you just see it. There's so many different stories that you look at the headlines and you're like, whoa, that's harsh. Then another player does something and it's not the same sort of headline. We've seen so many players that have been out, they've been unprofessional, nothing's been said. Jude Bellingham, there's nothing out there of him being unprofessional. All he wants to do, Sam, is win. All he wants to do is bring a trophy for his country. It's been too long. And because he puts his arms up a little bit, because he's not sat up straight on the bench after a hard 80 minutes, oh, he shouldn't go to the World Cup. It's obsessive, and I can see where Ian Wright's coming from.
What did you make of Jude's reaction, though, Gabby? Because I called it petulant when we recorded our podcast early this week. I thought it was ill-advised, bearing in mind it was Thomas Tuchel himself who really brought a lot of this to a head with the comments that he made about his mum finding some of Bellingham's behaviour, quotes, repulsive. I know he's since apologised for that, but do you think by making those comments he's changed the narrative around Bellingham, and were you totally on board with his reaction to coming off?
Listen, from a player's point of view, Crookie, sometimes you're not frustrated at the manager bringing you off. You're frustrated that maybe, how have I not scored here? How have I not done better in the game? How have my performance maybe didn't get to the levels, even though I got player of the match? You know what? My levels, I want to be better. Oh, we're 2-0 up. I want a chance to try and score. A bit frustrated that maybe like, oh, I could have got more out of the game. Not the fact that he's been brought off. I think that's the narrative that maybe Thomas Tuchel's not helped with his comments right at the start about what his mum thought about it. But from a player's point of view, sometimes you're unhappy to come off because you're a winner. You want to help the team more. You want to see it over. He didn't come off and do what Vinicius Jr. does and walk down the changing room, boots water bottles, start shouting at the manager. We're not seeing anything like that. If we're seeing that, then fair enough. We would all agree that's not on Jude Bellingham. You can't do that, blah, blah, blah. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing, oh, his arms up a little bit and he comes off, he shakes hands with Rodgers. No problem.
Gabs, I suppose I've got two sort of questions here within one. How much do you think is it that Jude, hasn't played at the top flight of English football, that, perhaps there's not that connection with him, even though there is with the fans? And I personally think he's our best player. I think our most important player is Harry Kane because of the drop-off from number 1 to number 2 there. But I think Jude Bellingham's our best player and is almost becoming a national treasure, absolutely bossing it at Real Madrid, the biggest club and in the world, and bossing multiple Champions League winners around from an early age. I think we should embrace that attitude as well. But how much do you think the fact that he hasn't played at the top flight as well? And do you think if a Harry Kane did something similar, that there would be the same kind of reports?
I think the problem is he's left the Championship, Birmingham City. He's gone, impressed at Dortmund. He's done very well for his country, nearly 50 caps, I believe. He's gone to Real Madrid, and he's probably, look, you can argue, he's at Galactico at Real Madrid. He's one of the top players there. He's a big personality. Is it the fact, Scott, that certain parts of the media, it's not everyone at all. There's been loads of journalists that give him praise, and if he's not had a good game, they're honest. That's fine. But there's certain journalists that, have they been turned down for an interview by Jude? in the last 2 years? Have they not been able to get over to Madrid and have a one-to-one interview with him? There's something in the reports that we're seeing and the stories that we're seeing, especially on the Mail, that seems personal to me. It seems like, oh, I've got a real issue with him. I mean, I feel sorry for some journalists when they found out he's got his own app, Scott. He brought out his own app 2 days ago. I bet some journalists couldn't get out of bed. They were that angry about it. It's like, he's one of our top players. Should he start at the World Cup? That depends on the manager. That depends on form. If it's Morgan Rogers, if it's Cole Palmer, if it's Phil Foden are doing better, let them start. If Bellingham's playing better for Real Madrid before the World Cup, he starts. Or he comes on in the second game, or he comes on in the third game and changes it. No one's saying that Jude Bellingham shouldn't be criticised for his performances. No problem. I personally didn't think he was at his best against Albania. I don't think he should have got player of the match. I don't think anyone really impressed. Harry Kane took his second goal well. So, for me, let the player express himself and let's not try and put one of our players down as we've done in the past. I was part of that era of Rooney, Beckham. Let's stop doing it to our superstars, because if he was Spanish, if he was Italian, they'd love him. They wouldn't try and put him down.
Do you know what? That's an interesting point you've made, though, because obviously the comment from Ian Wright was that certain people are not ready for a black superstar, but Beckham was a superstar. He had the celebrity girlfriend. France 98 kicks out at Simeone. I remember the headline, 10 brave lions, one stupid boy. There were pictures on the front page of newspapers of David Beckham shirts in a noose. So I just think it's dangerous to make this about the colour of Jude Bellingham's skin, because I think certain sections of the media have always been ready to take a pop at our superstars.
But I think the difference is, Crookie, I think Bellingham hasn't done what Beckham done. He hasn't kicked out at anyone. He hasn't done a thing wrong for me, really. He missed how many games this season because of a shoulder problem? He wasn't called up to a squad. That's it. They're playing so well now. They're beating no-name teams, which they should be beating. Don't need Bellingham in a squad now. We don't need him in there. He's been coming back from a shoulder injury, hadn't completed 90 minutes for Real Madrid. Finally, he does. He gets back to scoring ways. Manager brings him in. He plays for England over 2 games. What's the issue? That's why Ian Wright's looking at that point of view of like, something else must be going on here.
And nuance is rarely allowed in these big debates. It's definitely not given the time that it deserves. But I wonder if multiple things can be true at the same time. You know, is there a legitimate place where you can question Jude's behaviour that has been brought up by the manager and has made Mrs. Tuchel say it's repulsive, and at the same time be critical of some of the tone of parts of the coverage that many
100%.
people in the black community feel is racially motivated?
100%, Sam. Like I said earlier, no one's saying you can't say, Jude Bellingham, don't throw your arms up that like at other players and do this. I was a player, I didn't like it. There's no problem with how you criticise someone's for their behaviour. But when you're looking and you're seeing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tweets, articles, trying to force the narrative that Bellingham is a bad influence on the players, he intimidates the players. I question the players then. If you're intimidated by a 22-year-old, if you're Harry Kane, if you're the older players intimidated by Jude Bellingham, what does that say about you? So for me, I agree with what you said there, Sam. Yes, we can look at it and say, okay, Jude, at certain times,
because you don't want to be in a situation where you're not questioning those things and finding out whether or not those things are correct.
Yeah, I think for me, like I said before, previous games, there's been some games where, okay, Jude, maybe like be careful throwing your arms up too much. But the last game against Albania, we didn't see that. That's why everyone's had uproar at this certain article after the game, because he come off, he shaked hands with Morgan Rogers, he came and sat on the bench, he was celebrating Harry Kane's goal, which some people said he wasn't. He was. So that's when you look at the different narratives, Sam, of like, have people got another problem with Jude Bellingham being England's superstar player?
Okay, Gabby, I don't know if you've got to go out or you can stay with us for another 5 minutes or so, but we'd really like to keep you if we possibly can because you've done a brilliant job. And listen, the guy is a hero. There's no doubt about it. The overhead kick against Greece sort of tells you, against Slovakia tells you that. The goal against Greece when they're desperate for some way back into the game tells you that. The tackle that he did on Sunday night, getting back and sliding in Albania. He's a Champions League winner at Real Madrid. He is a genuine superstar. And he achieved so much before most people have even finished their university degrees. He is absolutely there to be lauded, and we should be putting him up on a pedestal. But he's also an England footballer, and England footballers do get asked questions. What it mustn't ever do is just sort of veer over the line from being genuine questioning into being racially motivated. And I'll tell you what, do you know what? I think when Ian Wright, a footballer of great experience, speaks about an issue like this, it is worth listening to and it is worth exploring and asking questions to understand better.
But by the same token, you shouldn't be afraid of dishing out constructive criticism because you might be branded a racist.
We're going to come back in just a second and discuss it further. If you want to get involved, it's 03 717 2233 44.
Who doesn't love the Ryder Cup, the competition that ignites and unites the greats of golf like no other. 1927 brought us the very first edition at the Worcester Country Club in Massachusetts. For the first 22 editions, when it was just British and Irish golfers versus the US, America were only beaten 3 times. But in 1979, in came Europe, and in came Seve Ballesteros, who went on to win 5 of them. Since Team Europe became a thing, the head-to-head reads Europe 13, USA 9. Europe's last away win was the miracle at Medina in 2012. America hasn't won on European soil since 1993 at the Belfry. So what about the money? The most recent Ryder Cup in Rome drew in a record 271,000 spectators and boosted the Italian economy by €262 million. The PGA of America TV deal with NBC is worth $440 million, but 2025 will be the first time ever that the US team will receive a fee for playing. Of course, in Rome, legend has it Patrick Cantley refused to wear his cap because he wasn't being paid to wear it, though he insisted it simply didn't fit. Either way, Team Europe have made it clear they're more than happy to keep playing for the thrill, joy and prestige of the Ryder Cup.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook, and the boy Minto is in today, saving the day once again. Just a quick, just to say thank you for the amount of messages and calls we've had already this morning. Right, we literally threw the number out once because we were in a massive debate with Gabby, and we've just been flooded with lots of text messages, lots of WhatsApps, and we love the fact that this show has a good community of people, and we're really delighted that you've contributed again this morning. Jamie says, guys, I'm really struggling with the narrative somehow becoming a race issue. All the reports I've seen and read are reporting on Bellingham's apparent petulant behaviour. Let's get this right. We're waxing lyrical about Morgan Rogers playing in his position, who is the same colour skin. Also, Ian Wright said that we're not ready for a black superstar. Ian Wright, you are a black superstar and we all love you. You had your own show many moons ago, and rightly so. You're living proof of black superstar. This is not a race issue here. Bellingham is an incredible player and I rate him highly, and he cannot be exempt from criticism. We're now going to miss the point entirely, says Jamie. 0371722 3344. The media are way over the top with Bellingham criticism, says Reese in Cardiff, but come on, it's not racism. David Beckham, to name one of many white men who've had media turn on him, it's simply because he's England's star man. Love Ian Wright, but I don't think he's right on this occasion. Lee Harrison says Tuchel wasn't bothered about Bellingham until the journalist brought it up. Even then he wasn't bothered. He's not petulant. This is racially motivated. Why can't the press just get on with backing and supporting the nation? I'm a middle-aged white man that lives in a rural area, and we can see the racism and the racist undertones with the press. You guys should be calling out these journalists and taking them to task, says Lee. Let's speak to Gabby and ask him what he thinks about those first sort of tranche of text messages that have come through. Hi, Gabby.
You all right, Sam? You okay, mate?
Yeah, go for it. What did you think of some of those text messages that have just come through?
I think a lot of people have to look at, for instance, the Albania game. I was watching it on the TV, didn't see anything, but someone who's in the stadium seen something totally different to what everyone else seen. And after the game, Sam, the next day or after the game, headline, why Thomas Tuchel should lead divisive soloist Jude Bellingham out of his World Cup squad. It doesn't matter how good a player he is. This is why his ridiculous antics threaten England's shot at glory.
Just a quick point. That headline you can discuss in just a second, but on the point of nobody else saw it, that's not necessarily true. I was in the stadium. I didn't see it because I was commentating and I was looking at the pictures of the moment the goal went in as that then came through. But I had colleagues there, lots of people in the stadium, who did see some reaction. Now, that wasn't shown on the coverage, and we went back and spooled through it to check to see if it was on the coverage because we wanted to corroborate it as well. But there was multiple reports. It wasn't just one person reporting that. A lot of people did say that they had seen some reaction. But because it was an Albanian broadcast, they were focusing on different areas of the pitch. So I think that's the first thing to mention, first of all. On the headline, go ahead.
Yeah, but the headline and that, Sam, it's like, from a player's point of view, I used to do that every week. If I ever got took off, I got took off every week because I wasn't a great player. But your arms go up a bit like, oh, God, no, come on. It's 2-0. Oh, you know what I mean? I can go and get a goal here. Oh, okay. Then I'm going to come off and I'm going to shake Roger's hands, manager's hands, sit on the bench, bit not happy, but so what?
But I'll go back to the point I made earlier, Gabby.
Since he played for Man United?
Yeah, but the reason that Jude Bellingham probably is being overanalyzed now is because of what Thomas Tuchel said to us on this very station. And I think the manager has to take a responsibility.
100%.
I'll go back to Beckham, France, 98. And it was only actually when I watched his documentary recently, you realise that Glenn Hoddle played a big part in the pylon that followed with the comments he made directly after England had been knocked out by Argentina.
Crookie, you spot on, mate. But the thing for me is that, you know, lucky enough to work on talkSPORT, when you do shows, you see the back pages, you see the front pages, and it's not everyone. Most papers are looking at, wow, England didn't concede a goal in qualifying, outstanding, who's going to play in number 10, we've got this player, this player, this player. But certain obsessed people are targeting one player that he shouldn't go. This is a guy who's playing for Real Madrid, starting for Real Madrid, scoring important goals at 22, done it all at 22, wants to give his all to his country. Like, we used to argue about players that wanted to come off in games to save themselves for their clubs. Now we've got players that don't want to come off. They want to play 90 minutes in a qualifier against Albania when we've already qualified. Risk of getting injured for his club. That shows the passion and the love from Jude Bellingham. And like you said earlier, lads, everyone can be criticised. I was the first at the Euros watching games live in Germany and being on talkSPORT and saying Jude Bellingham's got to pass the ball. He's not passing the ball quick enough. He's taking too many touches. He's got to pass the ball to his teammates that are making runs. No one's saying you can't criticise anyone, Crookie, but certain people, you can tell the narrative that they've got.
Gabby, how much do you think in the world we live in right now where, you know, everything's kind of clickbait and you try and get the actual story, and obviously with newspapers it's struggling a bit more now, lots going online, but we know with all the social media and podcasts, etc., that's there, how much do you think it could be someone, wrongly so, but going down a narrative of let's go for the superstar because actually this could get the most sort of hits versus actually, you know, this is a racial thing? Because I think it's really important to say one thing. You can criticise, and there are certain people who are getting criticised or even accused of being a racist when they're clearly not, but they're just criticising Jude Bellingham as well. It's almost, we've got to be careful not to put everyone in the same group here.
No, you can say that, to be fair, you can say that. I was saying that to my friend the other day. I says, is this a case of the more I go for the player that's going to create debate, the more I'll be able to get praise from my bosses, for the paper I work for? Do I get praise because, look at that?
Well, some people will say that happens here as well, by the way. People will say that you'll say things to get traction. They'll say Crook says things to get traction. Scott, Troy, whoever.
But Sam, whatever we say, though, we back it up with stats. We don't just say something wild and then say, there you go. That's what we do on talkSPORT. We have big opinions, but we back them up. Why has Anthony been useless at Manchester United? Here's his goal record. Here's his assist record. We're not just going off on our own little path and hammering our superstar for no reason. That's what the problem I had with it. And, you know, got a little gig on Sky now as well. You know, so it's working. Like Scott's saying, maybe if you're controversial, you go for Jude Bellingham, England's biggest superstar at the moment, maybe that gets you know what I mean? You get more jobs from that. You get more praise of your bosses because you're getting more views on social media on these clips. But for me and for everyone that can see, and you can see the reaction on social media, the last week or so, everyone can see that someone is obsessed with a player and it's not on. If we're going to win a World Cup, let's back all of our players. If they're not performing, Sam, for their club, then there's a debate who should go to the World Cup. That's what we're going to do between now and the World Cup. Let's not put a superstar player down when he's put his arms up a little bit coming off on the 80th minute. It's not the end of the world.
Largely very well.
There is, well, he got man of the match, didn't he? There is a legitimate debate, though, isn't there, about that number 10 position. We're hearing today that Cole Palmer is going to miss a few more games with a toe injury. Does he get on the plane? Morgan Rogers was the point that I made in our podcast, that I think at the moment in Thomas Tuchel's eyes, Morgan Rogers probably is the man in possession of the shirt. So we shouldn't be discouraged from having that debate, and therefore Bellingham does become a central part of that story, because 6 months ago it would have been unthinkable, wouldn't it?
Crookie, this is what I'm saying. We're going to have this debate until the World Cup starts. When the World Cup's on, look at the Euros 2021. Foden dyed his hair blonde, couldn't do anything. Saka ends up, and Sterling outshining Foden. Bellingham might not start the first game, but he might come on and score. He might come on in the second or third game and score, and then Bellingham starting. I'm not sitting here, or no one's saying that we can't debate who plays number 10. At the moment, Bellingham, Rogers, Foden and Palmer might come into outstanding form. Eze, Morgan Gibbs-White. Of course, Crookie, we have to keep debating. No one should be scared of people saying a certain narrative you've got by saying someone else should be playing as a number 10. Not at all. It's what we have, opinions.
Well, I think
but when you look at the multiple tweets and the multiple stories on a paper about a player, you have to question, what has he got a problem with, Jude Bellingham?
There was a wide range of different parts of the media were covering the story. It wasn't just one particular paper, but I understand that there was more aggressive headlines in certain parts of the media than there were in others. Look, Gabby, brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on. I know that you were busy today and you gave up your time to be able to come on and speak to us, and much appreciated.
Anytime, guys. Have a good one.
It was absolutely superb. That's Gabby Agbonlahor, who did play for England 3 times as well, so he knows what it's like to put on the white shirt and be scrutinised. We've got so many calls we've got to get through as well, and we want to get through your views in the next few minutes. So stick with us and we'll do that in the next few moments. This is talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Scott Minter with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deal at selcobw.com.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals and taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Thank you very much for getting in touch. This is talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface with Alex Crook with Scott Minto here in the studio today. Joseph Maple says this is typical of the British media. Hammer our best and brightest. As England fans, we've been calling out for someone with some swagger, some arrogance, whilst having the talent to back it up. But it's typical that we have to pull him down. Jude is a young man, still has a lot to learn, but he's playing for Real Madrid and England, arguably getting the best coaching in the world. Leave him alone and let the managers do their job. Comment on his performances only. Darren's a West Ham fan. Hello, Darren.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. What do you want to say?
Yeah, just to kind of follow it up on, to be honest, it's been like, from what I've been listening to, everyone's sort of saying the same thing. This is, from how I view this is just the same old story from the British media. We get a superstar, young, talented, has a great tournament, you know, everyone gets behind him and rightly so, as Jude Bellingham is. And then the moment there's a dip in form or there's a bit of an odd behaviour, they tear him down, and they do that because they know this formula works. They've done it with Beckham, they did it with Rooney, they did it with you know, some of the other players from that generation as well. It happens because they know those players get the most hits. And, you know, there is a deeper thing that goes on here from, you know, what these outlets are doing. But this isn't necessarily like specific journalists. They work for a paper, and they know what sells their papers, and they know certain criticisms on certain players will work.
Okay, Darren.
You know,
okay, in which case, let me just ask you this question. Having you just said exactly that, you talk about this being the British media or whatever, but the media is a reflection of the people that absorb it, right? Because you've just said the reason they do it is because it's a formula that works. So people pick up the paper or buy the paper or go on the websites where certain things are covered. So therefore there is arguably a problem that is wider than just the media, if that is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, I agree, and we should hold those outlets to account if they're stepping over a line when that is, like, I guess, racially spurred. You know, like, and that's a problem with our society, and we should be holding people to account and trying to do that more. Right now, what we're seeing with Jude, it's kind of criticisms on his behaviour and some of his kind of performances. It's not too over the top at this point. I know, you know, like it was mentioned earlier of like, oh, they did the same to Beckham, but it's not at the same level of, you know, what the media threw at Beckham. You know, his jersey's not in a noose yet. You know, people are just kind of picking out some of the points that he's done and having critics on it. Jude's a really talented player. He's the best player that we've got, and hopefully he will shine through in the World Cup and shut all of those, you know, shut these outlets up from their criticism about his performance.
Yeah, but we don't want anybody to shut up about criticism, do we? We want people to be able to have an informed debate and be able to discuss every facet of the game without it being racially motivated or motivated by any sort of prejudice or grudge? Just quickly, because Alan's on and he wants to get on.
Yeah.
Darren, thank you very much for that.
I was just going to make the point that you've said there, because I've just been scrolling through X and seeing what the reaction is to what we've been talking about this morning, and I appreciate this is a small sample size. Some people are calling our coverage woke. Some people are using the word racist, and maybe that's the problem with society, not just with football. But you're labelled now as being one thing or another, when actually we're just trying to have a constructive debate.
And by the way, one of the things that Ian's comments has done is put this debate into the mainstream. So we are discussing it. And sometimes it does make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but actually that might be a good thing. Alan is a Chelsea fan. Hello, Alan.
Hi, how you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. What do you want to say?
Well, basically, first of all, I want to say that talkSPORT, I listen to you every day, 6 days a week at my job. Great programme. Thoroughly enjoy it. Thoroughly enjoy the debate. First of all,
What do you want to say?
I think that race is being used too much here. Right back from George Best, Gascoigne. Gascoigne's life was destroyed, and he gave them, plenty of room for it with his behaviour. This is about behaviour. In my opinion, Thomas Tuchel wanted a team. He didn't want an individual because he doesn't think that an individual, a star, can win the World Cup. Now, I listen to Gabby. Gabby's gone on about, an individual reporter being obsessed. I think it's Gabby that's obsessed with the reporter, to be honest. That reporter would have to go into a boardroom full of executives of that paper and look at the narrative, and it would have to be agreed before any story would go out. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
But the other thing is that I think that people don't realise what goes on in the changing rooms. Thomas Tuchel sees what goes on in the changing rooms. He sees attitudes. He sees behaviour that he's not happy with. And I think that he personally, we make too much of it. I think that he gives Bellingham, I think he gave him he dropped him on the basis that I'm going to teach you a lesson. Your behaviour has to change. I don't like the attitude I see. And that's the manager's prerogative. And I think that his attitude has changed in the last game. I think his attitude was different. So maybe it has worked.
Maybe it worked.
You know?
Alan, we've got to go, but thank you very much for your opinion. We appreciate it, and we appreciate everyone who's got in touch with us today. And there's been quite a few of you getting in touch. 03717223334. You can WhatsApp us, you can text us, you can send us messages on any of the social medias as well. We'd love to hear from you. It's at talkSPORT. So much to get to because we've been involved in this debate for quite a while now. We've got to talk about a North London derby which takes place this weekend. Manchester United-Everton is Monday Night Football live on talkSPORT. And we've got Burnley-Chelsea tomorrow from 12:30. So you're in the right place.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Supporting van owners to get the job done. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your 11 o'clock sports headlines, I'm Hugo Chambray. England are somehow in control at the end of day one in the Ashes. If you're like me and set an early alarm to check the score, you probably thought same old England as they were bowled out for just 172 runs. But they reduced Australia to 123 for 9, giving them a lead of 49 runs at the close of play. Steve Harmison praised England's pace attack.
Every single one of them England bowlers has not missed their length or line or anything on that surface. There's been a bit in it, but I tell you what, they've bowled absolutely magnificent as a group.
This content, subscribe to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and the following on podcast feed. Now, here's a relatable injury for a millionaire footballer. Enzo Maresca says Cole Palmer is out with a toe injury after stubbing it on the door at home. Will he need ice or is he cold enough already? The manager says Palmer will miss at least 3 matches, including Barcelona and Arsenal. There's live exclusive commentary of Chelsea at Burnley tomorrow on talkSPORT. While Arne Slot says January transfers are the last thing on his mind after being asked about defensive reinforcements. The Liverpool manager told reporters they have other positions which are more of an issue than centre-back. And as part of Birmingham City's new stadium launch, the club's chairman has made an ambitious request of Jude Bellingham. Tom Wagner maybe being a little hopeful there. I'm not sure the promise of a 62,000-seater venue will lure Bellingham back. There's more on our website at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Some of Boris Johnson's former Tory allies have come out in support of his decisions during the pandemic, despite the COVID inquiry saying his government did too little, too late. And authorities uncover a multi-million-pound money laundering network operating in 28 towns and cities in the UK. There's more from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit, where we've got more premium tyres than the number of times you'll hear, "Ooh, it's a bit nippy this winter." Book today at quickfit.com.
Yellow warnings for ice cover some coastal parts of the UK this morning as temperatures continue to fall. It's hoped today could be the conclusion of this current cold snap.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals and taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface with Alex Crook and Scott Minto. And $1 Million Minto here today because Troy is not available. But you always come in, you're always ready, you're always up to speed. We love that about you.
If you had seen me a couple of hours ago, I'd have been anything but ready. But you know what? Just get into the phone box, come out, and then...
Not all heroes wear capes.
Exactly.
Yeah, some of them wear those.
And by the way,
those gold lame speedos that he wore when we were in Tenerife.
There's no speedos in my wardrobe.
Troy's also pulled out of our sort of Christmas do next
Oh yes,
Friday,
he
so
has.
there is a spot.
Nah, come on.
No, come on. Come on.
Nah.
You're first reserve.
You know I love a night out and an all day out.
More of an afternoon
it's
out.
Maya's
Right,
birthday. It's Maya's birthday today. She's one of our assistant producers.
Yeah, happy birthday, Maya.
Happy birthday, Maya. And she has organised a day out next Friday for our Christmas do, right? Haven't you, Maya? Yes.
I was with her with the debrief the last time when you guys were
and we're trying to fill spots, aren't we?
Honestly.
No, I mean we want Scott to come, don't we? So are we up for Scott? Yeah, Scott, she wants you to come.
He doesn't normally think twice.
I was going to say.
He's joining...
Usually he's like, well, when are we going out?
You're joining 38 of us at Fontwell for our Christmas do in December.
It's going to be a good day.
Is that another day that I'm working here and you're going racing?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
It's a Monday, though, not a Friday.
By the way, you had me at all day.
Right, okay, see you next Friday. Okay, so Arsenal lead the Premier League table and we've got the North London derby this weekend. Crook and I are going to that for Game Day Live. We're on air from 1:30. They're 8 points clear of their London rivals, Tottenham Hotspur. Now, 6 years ago, go back to 2019, and Spurs sack Maurizio Pochettino, and they swiftly appoint Jose Mourinho. Then 5 months, that was 5 months after they'd reached the Champions League final. In the same week, Arsenal sack Unai Emery and then eventually replace him with Mikel Arteta. During the course of those 6 years, which club has made the greatest strides in terms of making a step towards sustained success, do you think?
Literally comparing chalk and cheese, isn't it? When you look at where Arsenal are and where Tottenham are and where they were last season in the Premier League, you've got to say he got a bit of stick for it when he came in, Mikel Arteta, telling us all to trust the process and telling fans to do that. Their patience was tested at times, but they're in a brilliant position. They're in a position where they're favourites for the Premier League. They're having a great season in Europe as well, and Tottenham are a million miles away from where Arsenal are.
Which is quite fascinating, isn't it? Because if you go back 6 years, Tottenham Hotspur had just been in a Champions League final. Tottenham Hotspur had just moved into a brand new stadium. Tottenham Hotspur had the England captain in their ranks and looked as if they were developing and had developed a really good team. Arsenal
and then
were
Tottenham
way
Hotspur
off
didn't spend any money for a couple of windows.
And that's where the problem started.
I can't believe that's even a question, Scott, on the YouTube feed. Have Tottenham or Arsenal had the most success?
Well, it's not a question, is it?
But do you know what?
But it could have been and should have been.
It could have been, should have been, would have been. The only thing Tottenham fans can argue is the ultimate thing. What have Arsenal won in the last half decade and what have Tottenham won? And obviously you're talking about the Europa League and you can go back, let's say the start of Mikel Arteta, he's won the FA Cup. That's the only single argument that Spurs fans can have. Apart from that, in every single facet, Arsenal have kind of blown them out the water. Regularly now chasing for Premier League, looking as if they can get deep and maybe even win the Champions League as well. Almost getting to that point where, do they take the League Cup as seriously because they've got bigger fish to fry? You look at Spurs where they finished last season in the Premier League. Yes, they won the Europa League, but that was a very poor Europa League. And sorry, Crookie, even the final, they were the least worst side.
I'm still not over it. The dog and duck against the Red Lion. And the dog and duck came out on top.
Well, that's your punishment. If you ever let us down again, we'll make you watch a rerun of that
and go down a dog and duck. But it's really interesting to see what ENIC will do now because they've got Daniel Levy out of the way, so the kind of pantomime villain's not there anymore. So what are they going to do? And how do you make that statement? Obviously, they did it so late in this summer window that they didn't have time to sort of bring someone in, but they have to make a statement if they do want to try and get back up there, because to combine the Premier League and the Champions League is hard enough, but to do that with a team that finished, well, they're only just above the bottom three, weren't they, last season?
They would have gone down in any other season.
In terms of where they finished. So, that's a massive jump. So, look, in terms of where they are, I think Thomas Frank, by the way, is doing a very good job considering what he started with, considering with how much of a sieve-like defence that they had, considering how he hasn't really got strikers or he's got a lot of injuries as well. And can't complain about injuries because every manager would want to do about that. But listen, this is the right man, I think, in place at Spurs.
Well, that's an interesting question because one of the things that Arsenal did during that 6-year period, which they obviously didn't do at Tottenham, they had 7 different managers during that time, is give the keys to the castle to Mikel Arteta. Now, Thomas Frank has been hired by the Lewis family to take charge of Tottenham Hotspur. Is he the right man to start a dynasty? And is he someone with whom that they're comfortable giving the keys to the castle to?
I think they should be. I think some of the criticism that we've seen for Thomas Frank, for me, is a little bit baffling. When you look at where they are in the table, yes, they're not scoring a hatful of goals, but they haven't got a striker really worthy of the name with Dominic Solanke obviously still out injured. He didn't spend fortunes in the summer transfer window. So it's going to be interesting. All the briefings we got when Daniel Levy was forcibly removed from the club was that it's because the owners wanted to prioritise sporting success over the cash cow really that Tottenham have become. Well, the proof will be in the pudding. What they're going to do in January and more pertinently what they're going to do in the summer. But in terms of a dynasty, what does success look like really for Tottenham? I would suggest competing regularly for a place in the Champions League is success by Spurs standards. Do I see a situation in the next couple of years where they're going to be challenging for major silverware? No, I don't think so, Scott. Do you?
And if you look at a lot of people throw criticism at Arsenal fans and say, the bridesmaid, not the bride. But they are now, year on year.
You do like to get invited to the wedding, though, don't you?
Well, of course, it would be nice.
He loves a good wedding.
You love a good wedding as well. We went to
he done turn up
weeks ago.
I went to the football. Sorry,
don't go there. There was free booze. The Crookie went. No, but the bottom line is, who would you rather be, right now, a Spurs fan or an Arsenal fan. And with the excitement of what's happened in the last few years, plus what you feel could happen over the next few, apart from that run in the Europa League where they didn't play great teams, and I'm not criticising them for that because you can only beat what's in front of you. But with the change of the format of the Europa League where the Champions League teams don't drop down, there's definitely a weaker competition than it used to be. Listen, I don't want to be either of the two fans, but Arsenal definitely the most exciting team out of two.
It was interesting to hear Thomas Frank talk, wasn't it, over the course of the international window, where he sort of suggested that he'd been interviewed by Chelsea and Manchester United both on the same day and was considered for both those two jobs and ended up going to Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, is this, and I'm asked you both this, I think, on the Premier League All Access podcast this week, was that him turning around and just reminding everybody how sought after he was after his tenure at Brentford?
I think so. Because I think he probably feels a little bit unloved, as I say, because there has been criticism, mainly due to the home form. Spurs still unbeaten away. I think I'm right in saying that. But obviously, more Tottenham fans get to watch them at home than they do away from home. And therefore, it's important when you're a new manager that you put on a bit of a show in front of your own supporters. They've not really done that so far, apart from the opening day against Burnley. But as I say, he was starting from a really low bar when you look at their league form last season, the number of games they lost under Ange Postecoglou in the Premier League. I think he's doing a good job.
They were defeated away from home in the League Cup,
but in the Premier League, I think they're still the only unbeaten team away from home.
Sam, I've already sort of lent my support to Thomas Frank. I think he's a really good manager, really intelligent coach and intelligent man. What he did at Brentford when I covered them, they were a really good passing side because they were able to do with the players that they had. Then once they got into the Premier League, it was like, we can't just pass. And we've complained at certain managers who have done that and then gone straight back down. He's an intelligent guy who, once he gets the right players and right formula, then you'll see him play more of a, should we say, aesthetically pleasing on the eye game.
He needs a forward. He needs an Ivan Toney.
He does. And ultimately,
a focal point, that's what he needs.
So on the forward point, and I've said this many times, I played at Anfield where we played against Liverpool and we've actually played really well. And Michael Owens had 5 touches of the ball and 2 of those have gone in the back of the net. We're going home in the coach saying, we played well there but lost 2-0. There's nothing like that fox in the box that can turn something out of nothing. And they haven't got that. And obviously with Solanke being injured doesn't help at all. But what I would say, I don't think he needs to come out and say that because actually he didn't end up signing for being the manager of Chelsea and he didn't end up being the manager of Manchester United. So anybody who listens to that, who wants to look at the negative, can turn around and say, well, you interviewed for it and they didn't want you. So why would you say that? If you want that out there, get someone on your side to get that out there. He doesn't need to come out and say that himself.
Arsenal themselves kept clean sheets in 8 of their last 9 matches in all competitions, but they are without Gabriel. He's going to have further tests after picking up an injury on international duty. Probably going to be missing for a month. He's not the only one. They've got a raft of injuries at the moment. And, you look at Jesus, Havertz, Gyökeres, Gabriel, possibly Martinelli, Madueke and Timber, who pulled up on international duty. Calafiori had a hip injury, left the camp as well when he was away with Italy. There is reports today that Ødegaard is going to be back for this match. But I went to Prague with them a couple of weeks ago, and I thought their strength in depth was absolutely superb. But that strength in depth is going to be tested over the next couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But I think this is where you're going to see the fruits of the last few transfer windows. We wondered why they were signing so many defenders. Were they going to need them this weekend? I do think Gabriel is a huge loss, not just in terms of the way that Arsenal defend, but the way they attack as well with those set pieces, the number of goals he scores, the number of goals that he creates. And Spurs themselves are not averse to goals from set pieces. So I think it could be quite interesting without him.
When you say interesting, do you mean it could be quite low scoring?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to. I mean, usually this fixture does deliver goals.
7 of the last 9.
He means uninteresting.
No, I think it's going to be a fascinating tactical battle.
That is usually cold for 0-0. Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if we see a draw. By the way,
I think
it's a big claims that they've 15 years since they.
Do you know Adrian Durham took issue with me?
Yeah, Max Down was in nappies, wasn't he?
When I said that I thought that maybe Arsenal might be a little bit pragmatic because of the injuries, he said that's an interesting take. But I think you think the same thing.
No, I heard him say that. I heard you say that and him say that. But we said this on the pod yesterday, didn't we? That actually, we know that they're very pragmatic anyway. When you haven't got your best 11 out, and there's a few that won't be there as well, I think you almost revert even more to what your instincts are, and Arteta's instincts are like that. So I don't think there'd be many goals in this. I think Spurs would absolutely snap the hand off for a draw if they can try and keep it clean sheet, which I don't think they will. But I think Arsenal still, and I agree with Crookie, and again, I said this yesterday, they've got the best squad. They've got the deepest squad, and that's, so important. But actually, Gabriel is one of those few individual players where you almost can't replace, because not only is he a really good defender, he's a good leader. You can see even at back four, he's the one who's talking all the time, and he's brilliant in both boxes, especially going forward.
Yeah, we also do a deep dive into how they might line up without him on the Premier League All Access podcast, which is available via your TalkSPORT app. You can download it. You can flick between the two stations, but you can also go to the podcast sections and find it there. We'll talk Manchester United and Everton in the next section of the programme. They clash on Monday Night Football.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals and taking you through what should be another busy day of football.
Chance to win it! We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
TalkSPORT with Keep Britain Tidy. No ifs, no buts. If you smoke, bin your butts.
Okay, it's time now for our feature with Keep Britain Tidy. We're going to look at what has got us all fired up and what we need to put in the bin. What are you laughing at? A big debate this week came from the lips of Todd Bowley ahead of Chelsea's game with Burnley at the weekend, which is live on talkSPORT, of course, 12:30 kick-off tomorrow. Should the Robert Sanchez naysayers get in the bin, or will Chelsea's title chances be in the bin if he's not replaced? Scott Minter, you watch a lot of Chelsea. This season, he's conceded just 9 goals in the Premier League. He was epic in the Club World Cup final. He has made mistakes. In fact, 5 errors which led to goals last season, was the joint highest in the league since Harry Muric and Bart Verbruggen, I think. So he does have issues occasionally, but he does make some good saves. Where do you stand on him?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a fan, but I think in the last 6 months, and by that I mean, no, maybe even a little bit more than that, the last 3 months of last season, I thought he started to improve a lot more. Do you know why? He wasn't being asked to play the ball out with his feet. If it had to go, it had to go. In terms of shot stopping and that, I think he's, with the size that he is, he should be very good. I think crosses, he's improved a lot. But, I mean, they put a bid in for Mike Maignan, didn't they, at Milan, just before the Club World Cup?
Yes.
And, we're sort of hearing the only reason it didn't happen was because Milan wanted more money. And then Chelsea didn't go up, a club that's just spent sort of 1.5 billion over the last 3 or so years.
They saw it as a way of getting an experienced goalkeeper for a very cheap price. And they thought they were going to get that deal done. When they realised that it wasn't going to be a very cheap price anymore, they decided, well, we don't need to.
Well, I'm not sure it would have been a very expensive price when they only bid sort of 10, 15 million. And actually, I still to this day think the goalkeeper role is the most underrated role on the pitch. I don't think people realise how difficult it is from a psychological point of view as well as just the technical point of view. When you don't touch the ball for 20 minutes, you might make a mistake. You might not touch the ball for another 20 minutes. The fans are on your back. You've got to be so strong to be a goalkeeper. So I don't know why they don't go for the amount of money that top strikers do, to be honest with you. I think it's that important. But in terms of Sanchez himself, I do think he's improved. I did say at the start of the season, I felt that Chelsea needed a striker, a centre-half and a goalkeeper. They obviously got a striker in, and we're waiting for Liam Delap to really fulfil his potential. It will take a bit of time, but 30 million was an absolute no-brainer. I still think centre-half, someone like a John Terry or Thiago Silva, someone like that would be just brilliant, just to talk through these youngsters. Let's not forget, this is still the starting average 11, the youngest in the Premier League and the youngest ever. So they're learning. So all that money that's been spent that people say they should be winning these trophies, yes. But if you look at the experience that they've got, it's not that high. So with someone like Sanchez, he's improving. I'm just not sure he's a Premier League winning goalkeeper.
Some stories doing the rounds in the last 24 hours that Philip Jorgensen was going to be loaned out in the January transfer window. Obviously, the Chelsea goalkeeping department is a big one. There's quite a few goalkeepers there. They like Mike Penders, who's a young Belgian goalkeeper who's been out on loan again this year. They sold Jordan Petrovic during the.
He was probably their best one for me, and I think he's done really well at Bournemouth.
Yeah, he's done okay. He had a bit of a wobble in the game against Aston Villa, didn't he? But apart from that, he's been pretty solid. Although he did just lose his place in the Serbia national team, which I thought was a little bit strange. But what about Chelsea's hopes of winning the title this season? Because the question is, will Chelsea's title chances be in the bin if he's not replaced? Is one of the issues that they've got the fact that, one, the defence isn't secure enough, despite the fact that we've seen, the goals that they've conceded is pretty light, isn't it? Only 9 in the Premier League, the second joint best record in the top flight. But experience and, I suppose, in a sense, game changers at the top end of the pitch that haven't quite all hit the ground running yet.
Yeah,
set them apart.
I thought they were overpriced at the start of the season. They were sort of a double-figure price to win the Premier League, and I thought that was a bit too generous, unusually for the bookmakers, considering they just won the Club World Cup. Obviously, they've reinvested again. I know you're a massive fan of Esteval. You've tipped him to win the Ballon d'Or, which is a big claim.
Not this time. I've said he'll win the Ballon d'Or in his career.
Get his name right as well as Esteval.
Robert Sanchez definitely won't win the Ballon d'Or, although I did think he was man of the match at Old Trafford earlier in the season. But yeah,
he's out of order. He's a bad kid, isn't he? That one.
I think they're short in certain areas. I think João Pedro is suffering a little bit of an identity crisis. I'm not sure he knows what he is yet. I think he wanted to be Brazil's number 9, but he doesn't look like an out-and-out number 9. He's probably better as a 10. He's played coming in from the left as well, but I think he needs to up his goal return. Scott's mentioned Liam Delap, mainly due to injury, but he got himself sent off as well, is yet to catch fire. And I do worry about them defensively.
Palmer's injury.
Palmer's a
Another
massive
injury. He's gonna
problem.
miss the next 3 games.
It's a massive
He's
issue.
got, an issue with his toe. He had an accident at home, apparently. Garnacho, Esteval, Neto. You've got João Pedro, Palmer, Delap. They're all good players, aren't they? I mean, and in Palmer's case, he's an excellent player and he can create something from nothing. But the rest of them have all just done a little bit without doing loads. Does that make any sense? There's still more to come, I think, from that front lot. And is that because of experience? Is that because they're new to Chelsea? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget they've scored 21 goals so far this season. Only Manchester City have scored
Fixture's been
more.
fairly kind though as well. They've had some nice games.
No, I think they've had some tough games as well.
They went to Manchester United away. They beat Liverpool at home.
Yeah, that was made tough by the early sending off by somebody. But no, look, I think actually, again, I go back to the fact of why I can't say that Chelsea should be winning the Premier League title despite all the money it's been spent, because you need that blend of experience, senior pros, with the youngsters. These are a lot of youngsters, quite a lot of them foreign, getting used to living in a different country, different language, and they're all expected right now, go out and do it. And the weight of the Chelsea shirt is very heavy. It's one of the biggest clubs in Europe.
I think
now.
largely they do it though, right? So they do win most games, Chelsea.
They
but
are
they
now.
throw in the odd performance like the Manchester United one, where actually something goes against them and then they just make a litany of bad decisions. And the manager has to take responsibility for that, by the way, as well. But then the Sunderland game, where they get in front again and then all of a sudden it goes against them. The Brighton game, where they get in front and they get a player sent off and it goes wrong again.
That's my point, Sam.
Those moments over the course of the season are going to cost them dear, and that's why they won't win the title.
That's my point. And don't forget, and Enzo Maresca, for some reason, he seems to be Marmite with a lot of the Chelsea fans. I want him given time. I think he's a very talented coach. I really do. But let's not forget that he's learning. It's only his third full season as a manager. Let alone, he's not this experienced manager that Chelsea have been used to for 20 years. So let's give him time. If we're going to be spending this money, if we're going to go down this route of youngsters and young manager as well, inexperienced, let's just let them grow organically.
Just a very quick one on Garnacho, because you mentioned in there as the sort of list of talented young players. Are Chelsea fans having the same frustrations with him that Manchester United supporters did, that he's got a lot of ability, but that the temperament is still debatable?
Well, it was all right the last time he turned out in a Chelsea shirt when he came up with 2 assists in the game against Wolverhampton Wanderers, and I left him on my fantasy team's bench, which was really helpful. That game, Burnley against Chelsea, is live on talkSPORT tomorrow, 12:30. We're on air from 11 o'clock. Join us from Turf Moor for that one. That was all thanks to Keep Britain Tidy.
Get in the bin! On talkSPORT with Keep Britain Tidy. No ifs, no buts. If you smoke, bin your butts.
This is talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface alongside the Crookmeister and $1 Million Minto. We're here right the way through till 1 o'clock with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deal at selcobws.com.
The opening day of the Ashes in Perth has brought the lows and then the highs of Bazball cricket. England were bowled out for 172 in the shortest Ashes first innings since 1902, before Stokes took 5 wickets, with Jofra Archer and Bryden Cast taking 2 each. The hosts were stumped at 123 for 9 and now trail the visitors by 49 runs. Steve Harmison's been impressed with what he's seen so far.
Every single one of them England bowlers has not missed their length or line or anything on that surface. There's been a bit in it, but I tell you what, they've bowled absolutely magnificent as a group.
Elsewhere today, Arne Slot's going to be without Connor Bradley and Florian Wirtz in Liverpool's clash against Nottingham Forest tomorrow. The pair both have muscle injuries, with fullback Bradley expected to be out for the next 3 weeks. The Liverpool boss says he's not even thinking about the title race at the moment.
We didn't do this last season as well when we were top of the league. It's just about the next game. And I've said many times last season, and I say this season again as well, the best way to judge a league table is after 38 games, but the next best thing, in my opinion, is after 19 games.
Meanwhile, Chelsea fans are going to have to wait a little longer for Cole Palmer's return. He's missing the next 3 games after breaking his toe. And could a glitzy new stadium be enough to lure Jude Bellingham back to the Midlands? Birmingham chairman Tom Wagner is hoping so. They've released plans to build a new 62,000-seater stadium as part of a multi-billion-pound redevelopment in the city. There's more at talksport.com.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Making every game an occasion with tools to help you stay safe. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+ gambleaware.org.
And we're just past 11:30 this Friday morning. And for those that don't know, it's Safer Gambling Week here in the UK, a cross-industry initiative to promote safer gambling in the UK and Ireland. We'd usually speak to our friends at BetMGM at this time, but they've chosen to use this time instead for us at talkSPORT to help raise awareness of safer gambling. At BetMGM, there are several tools available for customers to manage their time and keep their spending in control, including timeouts. A timeout allows you to take a short break from gambling from 24 hours to 6 weeks when your account closed for that specific period of time. To hear more about timeouts or BetMGM's other safer gambling tools, please visit betmgm.co.uk/safer-gambling or the Safer Gambling Week website at safergamblinguk.org. You can also call the UK's National Gambling Helpline on 0808 8020133. That's all thanks to BetMGM. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Making every game an occasion with tools to help you stay safe. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+ gambleaware.org.
It's Monday Night Football this week, and it's Manchester United who we're going to get used to seeing on a Monday night with talkSPORT out and about. This week it's Old Trafford, it's Everton the visitors. We'll have commentary. Danny Murphy will be part of our team. Adrian and I will be there from 7 o'clock. On this day in 2021, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked as manager of Manchester United. It was a 4-1 defeat away at Watford that day. In the years since, what has happened to the football club? How have they used those 4 years, Alex Crook?
Well, first and foremost, I was there at Watford with Adrian, and it was all a little bit unsavoury. Fans turning on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer from the away end after a pretty wretched Manchester United performance. I'd prefer to remember him for scoring the winning goal in the Champions League final or for masterminding that great night in Paris than the way it ended. I think he was probably kept on for too long. have they moved?
He did take them to a Europa League final himself and only narrowly missed out on penalties. He took them to the Champions League after being excluded from that competition for a little while.
Yeah. He had that initial impact, which a lot of Manchester United managers at the time seemed to have, and then couldn't sustain it, probably because of the issues he faced in the dressing room. I think Ruben Amorim has done his best to address those issues. I do think United are in a better place now than they were on this day 4 years ago.
They finished second in the Premier League.
You asked me where they were on this day 4 years ago, and they're in a better position now as a football club. I think they've got better players. I think the manager has been backed. I think you've got a style of play now.
Did they back him?
Ollie? Maybe not in the same way, I don't think. You have to remember he was brought in as a sort of romantic appointment, a caretaker manager. I remember when we got the news, it came from nowhere, didn't it? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was going to be the new Manchester United manager. Went on that brilliant run. Rio Ferdinand's mate on television asking for a lifelong contract. But to say it unravelled by the time that they took the pitch at Vicarage Road. So I do think they're in a better place. Are they the Manchester United of old? Will they ever be the Manchester United of old? Well, that's a big question, but they're not at this moment in time.
He was a delight to deal with, by the way.
He's a great guy.
He was absolutely.
So was Ruben Amorim, though.
Superb to deal with. He was great around the place. He was their fourth permanent manager since Sir Alex Ferguson. They had finished second in the Premier League just a few months before he was sacked. They were 12 points behind the champions Manchester City, and no one wants to be second if you're at Manchester United. They lost the Europa League final to Villarreal. It was sort of accepted at the time that he needed to win a trophy to stay in the job. He did stay in the job, but not for very long. After that, they've gone on a run of 1 win in 7 in the build-up to that Watford game, which was a bit of a dismantling, really. And there were problems there. But after a year in charge, what have you seen from your mate Ruben Amorim that differs from any of the other managers in the post-Sir Alex era?
Yeah, just on Ollie, it was sad to see in the end, wasn't it? Him getting interviewed where you could see he had nothing left. He had nothing to say. And he's a good guy who was just very much on the back foot. And he still will be a United legend for sure, what he did as a player. Interesting, Crookie said there's now style of play, when I'm pretty sure on the podcast for a very long time, over the last 12 months, he's been complaining about the style of play and the formation.
But there is a style of play, isn't there? You can't get away from that. Whether you like it or not, there is a way that Ruben Amorim wants his team to play. And I think in the last few weeks, finally, the penny seems to have dropped with the players.
Well, yeah, I think they'll be slightly disappointed with the 2-2 draws that they've had recently. But it looks like things are a little bit on the up. I mean, look, when you bring in the likes of Brian Mbeumo and Mateus Cunha as well, I think they were Premier League ready and they were always sort of no-brainers in a way, although I still feel that they needed that, well, one goalkeeper, but to be fair, they've probably fallen on a very cheap option that looks like he's a good kid who can handle, again, the weight of the shirt, but also a central midfielder. You've got Bruno Fernandes playing as a 6 when really he's a 10. And then you've got those two as the 10s, and then you've got Benjamin Sesko. We're still waiting for. I know he's shown glimpses, but I've said this to you before. I still have it in the back of my mind, and it's going to take a little bit to change my mind. The fact that I know he had a little bit of an injury in that Grimsby game, but he was told, "Don't take the penalty." Alan Shearer, Michael Owen, Robbie Fowler, Gabby Agbonlahor. You're not telling me they wouldn't step up and say, "I don't care what you're saying. I'm going to take the penalty." Yeah. I'm not going to be number 10 on that. So. The jury's out for me with him.
But he was right, though,
looking a lot better.
They needed a lot of investment. They needed a lot of change. They needed serious overhaul. And he was, from the very start, determined to put in place systems and structures that over the long term would improve Manchester United. They're 5 games unbeaten. If you look at the fixtures that are to come, and they had quite a hard start to the season, they've got a run of fixtures where you would expect them to pick up points. The problem with Manchester United is you'd expect them to pick up points and then they don't deliver that. Agreed. But they do have a run of games, 10 league matches against opposition from outside the established Big Six, and of that, only Aston Villa are above them.
I think going back to Ollie, the dressing room needed cleansing. It's needed cleansing through various managers. I think Ruben Amorim is the first manager who's really been given carte blanche to do that. If you remember, Jose Mourinho picked a fight with Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba won.
Different ownership.
It did feel to me at the time when Ollie was there that maybe the kids were running the classroom a bit. Maybe he didn't have that authority.
Mourinho too. Mourinho tried it and he wasn't backed.
But Ollie refused to park in the manager's space because he felt that should be reserved for Sir Alex Ferguson. That was a bit of an alarm bell ringing for me. So he's got that authority, Ruben Amorim. I think he's been emboldened by the fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has come out and said, we're going to judge him over 3 years. Clearly, he still needs to win games. You're right, you look at the run they've got. Everton at home on Monday. That's a game they should be winning. They play Wolves not once but twice in December. They've got West Ham at home as well. Bournemouth at home, albeit Bournemouth have caused them problems in the recent past. But there are victories to be had. But the issue that they've suffered from again, under various managers, is they had the ability to get themselves up for the big game, the FA Cup final against Manchester City, Liverpool away, and then they drop points against teams they should be beating. So I'll back up what you're saying. I think by the end of December, we will know how big a corner they've turned.
And because they've got no distractions from Europe, no Carabao Cup distractions, is this a team that should be laying a claim to being in the top 4 at the end of the season?
I think that's a big jump from where they were last season. But it's look, Manchester United should never have a season where they're not in Europe. And really, how good they've been in the Premier League era should never have a season where they're not in the Champions League. That's where they need to get back to. And Ruben Amorim, look, he's given himself, or he's opened himself up to criticism the way he's spoken. But actually, I think every Manchester United fan has been fed up with the culture of the last decade or so since Sir Alex Ferguson has tried to back the manager, even if it looks like it isn't working, because they don't want to keep on seeing a manager coming around every 2 years. So the only thing I'd say about Ruben Amorim, and look, you know my love for Portugal almost as much as Crookies now. He's got that Villa.
You don't prop up the economy like he does.
No, exactly, with a Guinness at 10 o'clock in the morning. The only thing I'd say about Ruben Amorim is he's never done another system other than the 3-4-2-1, and I'm not saying it can't work, but you want to see versatility, adaptability when things aren't working.
You are seeing that in game, not necessarily with formation, which is quite rigid, but the style of play. They're not afraid now with Lomans to go long, whereas maybe they didn't do that under Anana and Old Ty. I think they have been.
That's not that difficult to do. Just go long.
Do you know what? Do you know what? The change in the last few weeks is unbelievable. All of the early part of the season, I'm reassuring him, putting my arm around his shoulder, saying, watch this, watch what they're doing here, look at this, they're doing that slightly differently, it's all going to be okay, it's coming, just wait. And he was like, no, sack the manager in September or whatever it was.
We did get knocked out the League Cup by Grimsby.
And then it gets to the November international break, and it's all like, well, no, you can see that there's been a change in the style of play. They're taking the ball from defence into midfield now. It's good to see that you're late to the party, but as you always tell me, you know when to jump on the back of the right horse.
Always back the right horse.
And we live in Crookie's world, of course.
Of course, we certainly.
Look, they're on the up. That's the line. But it is like turning around the Titanic.
These run of fixtures, as Sam has already said, they're key.
And in answer to your question, 4th place, I don't see that happening. But even if they finish top 6, top 8, that's a massive improvement on last season.
What will be a marked improvement is when they sign a midfield player who can play in a similar sort of manner to Elliot Anderson and the way he does for England. That's certainly something that I think Manchester United are craving. He's rated at £100 million. Manchester United have been sort of linked with a move for him, monitoring his progress, I think is the word. I mean, is he going to be the one that fills the Casemiro hole in the summer? Is he going to be the one that they push the boat out for in January? He is going to be well thought of and well sought after, I think.
It's not going to happen in January. I'd be surprised if United do much actually in January. Maybe Conor Gallagher on loan, if he's available, is a possibility. And Conor to try and force his way back into the England squad might be up for that. It's a big jump, isn't it, for Elliot Anderson? Bearing in mind they paid £35 million for him. Is he a £100 million player? I think he's a really good player. I'm not sure he's quite worth that much at this point.
Yeah, no, look, in terms of the price tag, why would you if you're Forest, chuck out £100 million? If someone's willing to pay that, then fine.
Well, they only bought him sort of a year and a half ago, so they can charge what they want.
Exactly.
But they almost signed him out of convenience, didn't they? Because they sold their 4th choice goalkeeper to Newcastle for huge money. They got Elliot Anderson in return. I think we know who came out better in that deal.
But let me tell you, he is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League right now. Honestly, if you look at the way he's playing, look how he's grown in the England shirt, and it's a tough time at the moment being a Forest player, but yeah, he's always wanting the ball. He always protects it. He knows what to do. He's happy if he's got someone right next to him to still receive it. His vertical passes, if you look at his stats in terms of the Premier League, not just with Forest, he's such a good player, honestly, and getting to the point where I likened him to a previous world-class player, and I'm not saying that. I'm just in terms of style, not in terms of levels. But the way the top-class players play football at their pace, and you've got everyone running around, and yet he looks like he's two or three gears slower, and yet he's still controlling the game. Let me tell you, he's one of the best out there at the moment.
I tell you this, you didn't need to just be in Albania to see this, but I was obviously in the stadium on Sunday night, and we watched the game unfold or whatever, and I'm not doing anybody else down, but he comes onto the pitch, and there is an immediate change. There's immediate change of tempo, intensity, forward passing. He knows exactly where everyone is. Everyone knows where he is. He took the ball over into the far corner in the game against Serbia. You might remember it was the first few minutes of the game. He was tight to the touchline, and he wriggled out of basically a 3-man vice grip and emerged with the ball the other side without even trying. He was absolutely in command of that situation, and he's always in command of the football. Now, what we really want to see is him playing against high-grade opposition and being able to do the same thing, because his performances so far for England have been absolutely terrific. He is doing it for Forest, but I think he needs to do it on a more regular basis in those big games. And you almost want him to be playing a top level at a Champions League level. I'm pleased he's playing the Europa League this season because, again, that's another step for him. He really is developing into a sensational footballer.
And I think what's interesting is, and we've spoken about this, you look at United's recruitment, they deliberately targeted Premier League proven players, which is something for me they've not done enough of in the post-Sir Alex Ferguson era. And you look at their list of midfield targets, Elliot Anderson, Adam Wharton, Carlos Baleba, who's not having a brilliant season, but all Premier League proven players. I think that is the way forward.
Rob Edwards is back in management. He wasn't away for too long. He's been away a little bit further at Wolves. We'll talk about his first game in charge in the next few moments. This is talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals and taking you through what should be another busy day of football.
Chance to win it! We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Hello, this is talkSPORT. Sam Matterface and Alex Crook with Scott Minto here. Premier League, former Premier League player from a Champions League player. Played for Benfica and was
once say from a bygone era there.
He stopped himself. Previous century.
It was previous century, wasn't it?
It was.
Former Champions League record holder as well.
Yeah, thanks for that.
He's here. Let's talk about anchoring because Premier League clubs have been voting today on financial rules, and this is broken in the last few minutes, that they're not going to bring in top to bottom costs, anchoring costs, because that means that only the biggest clubs can only spend 5 times what the smallest club bringing in terms of revenue. But they have voted for a brand new system of SCR. Explain it to us, Crook.
Oh, what a world we live in when this is a headline news. But it is big because it means effectively that PSR will be no more with effect from the 2026-27 season. There was talk about anchoring, as you've mentioned, which would have seen potential salary caps introduced in the Premier League. Obviously, the PFA rallied against that. That was never really going to get off the ground. I don't think the vote for that was 12-7. So obviously one team abstained against bringing in potential salary caps, but they're going to adopt a system now known as squad cost ratio, which I think is similar to what UEFA impose in their competitions, whereby you can only spend 85% of your annual football revenue on things like player wages and transfer fees. Clubs will have a multi-year allowance of 30% they can use to spend in excess of the 85%. That will enable them to keep on splashing the cash, if you like. But what it does do, I think, it makes the status quo of the Premier League a bit more like what we're used to. I'm told that Manchester United and Manchester City in particular were pushing for this. And you can understand why, because United may have not had a lot to shout about on the pitch in recent seasons, but they continue to be a very profitable organisation. So clearly 85% of their revenue is a lot bigger than, say, Bournemouth's.
85% is very high, isn't it? When you think that the UEFA's model is 70%, that shows you that the Premier League clubs are determined to keep spending.
And that doesn't include stuff like stadium costs or anything around that.
No, it's on-pitch spending of their football revenue.
Well, then it looks like the big boys would be quite happy with that and certainly voting for that. My question would be, does it give the ability in a better way or a worse way for a club like a Forest or a Newcastle to try and break into that?
Well, interestingly, they have a multi-year allowance of 30% in excess of the 85%. So
that does come with a levy, though. So you will pay a bit of a
levy
surcharge on that.
You've got a bit of headroom if you really want to spend and you're determined to do it. You've got a little bit of extra headroom as well.
So if the owners want to do it and they've got the money, and then I think,
but they will have to pay a levy.
They do say in this statement that we just had from the Premier League that if clubs don't comply with the 85% cap, they will face potential sporting sanctions. So maybe points deductions are not quite behind us as yet.
Sorry, could I just to clarify? It does say on the statement, clubs have a multi-year allowance. There's no actual sort of
how many
years there is, and this is, they may get some sporting sanctions. It doesn't tell us what the sporting sanctions is and whether or not they really will get them. So, are we any of the wiser, really?
Well, the Premier League in the statement say that by introducing the squad cost ratio, they promote the opportunity for all its clubs to aspire to greater success while protecting the competitive balance and compelling nature of the league. That's a direct quote from the statement. But as I say, just speaking to a couple of senior executives at some of the smaller clubs in the Premier League, I'm not sure they necessarily feel that.
You are our chief football correspondent, and we know you're across all of this. So could you also explain to us the sustainability and systemic resilience rules that assess a club's short, medium and long-term financial health through 3 tests: the working capital test, the liquidity test and the positive equity test?
I'm sorry, I've checked out.
He needs a Guinness after that.
Yeah. Do you know what? It sometimes it does feel as if it's like a little bit too complicated. But look, I mean, I suppose the sort of main thing is 85% of your revenue. You can't spend more than that on your football costs. This is talkSPORT. We're going to talk more football next because we've got a lot to get through between now and 1 o'clock. Scott Minto is here, so is Alex Crook, and we're with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Commercial vehicles built around your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
Good afternoon, I'm Hugo Chambray. The opening day of the Ashes brought the lows and then highs of baseball cricket. England were bowled out for just 172 runs in the shortest first test innings by a touring side in Australia since 1932. But Aussie captain Steve Smith may be left in tears once again after his side's performance. Steve Harmison believes.
So hopefully England can come out with the bat in hand, 40-50 run lead, put a score on the board, and if they bowl like they've done, this afternoon in the fourth innings, then hopefully England go to Brisbane 1-0 up.
Elsewhere, the Premier League is back tomorrow, and Pep Guardiola says the season is just getting started as City try to narrow the 4-point deficit between them and Arsenal.
We are in November, and in November in this league, nothing defined. So what happened in February, March, be careful. But now start the season really, right?
City go to Newcastle in tomorrow's late game. Plus, who knew Cole Palmer was so clumsy? Enzo Maresca says he'll miss their next 3 matches after stubbing his toe.
Unfortunately, he had an accident at home 2 days ago. He hit his toe, but it's nothing important. But for sure, he's not back next week.
Palmer hasn't played since the end of September. Chelsea-Burnley is the early kick-off tomorrow, live and exclusive commentary on talkSPORT. And Premier League clubs have voted against anchoring a landmark meeting this morning. That means there won't be a spending cap based on earnings of the bottom-placed club the previous season, but new squad cost ratio and sustainability and systematic resilience proposals were passed. Say that 3 times quickly. The new rules will come in at the start of next season. There's more.
talkSPORT News.
The fallout over the COVID inquiry's damning report continues, with calls for the ministers across the board to resign. And we could be paying more for gas and electricity after January after an increase in the energy price cap at 0.2%.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. For a limited time only, get 15% off a set of 4 selected premium tyres. Don't miss out and book today at quickfit.com and drive away happy every time. Conditions apply.
Yellow warnings for ice cover some coastal parts of the UK this morning as temperatures continue to fall. It's hoped today could be the conclusion of the current cold snap.
Big game on Saturday night, 5:30, Newcastle against Manchester City, and with Arsenal involved in the North London derby, it could be a good weekend for Manchester City, couldn't it? Because if they were to put 3 points on the board on Saturday night and then Arsenal just maybe slip up, even if they drop a couple of points in the game against Tottenham, then they close the gap once again, just as they did before the international break. Is that a scenario that you could see developing, Scott, or is that maybe fanciful, bearing in mind just how relentless Arsenal have been?
I think it's another big weekend. We had a big weekend a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, where Arsenal went to St James's Park, and you said, well, they could have lost that if Liverpool had beaten, I think, did they play Palace that weekend? When you're sort of thinking, well, maybe they'd win, and suddenly the title's over. And then look what happened since then. So, listen, I think what we've realised this season is it's really exciting. I wouldn't read too much into it. Just when you think Manchester City were out, which a lot of people were saying at the start of the season, I was there for the Brighton game. And actually, they should have been 4-0 up at half-time, but ended up losing it. And a lot of people were saying they ain't going to do it. They're 4 points now off Arsenal. St James's Park, difficult place to go. I mean, I was at Brentford just before the break. Newcastle were poor. I mean, really poor. And that off the back of their game at West Ham as well. But they're a different beast, different animal at St James's Park. So this is a great time for Newcastle to try and turn it into a positive, how they've been the last couple of games, especially after the international break. We'll see how City's players are.
Well, we talked to Pep Guardiola this morning, and this is what he had to say about the fact that Arsenal don't drop points very often. You've got to take advantage when they do.
The truth is, a team as strong as Arsenal it is in the last seasons, not just this season. I guess so. impeccable in many things. So the feeling that I had in the past when we fought incredibly against Liverpool, I had the feeling that we'll not drop much points, and if they can take a lot of distance, it will be difficult to catch up with what's similar like Liverpool last season. And after that, you play. I had that moment, experience we have in our careers, and we take advantage for 9, 10, 12 points. You play that games more easy and nothing wrong happen if you drop points, no? And the other ones from behind have to put incredible pressure, and that's why when the distance is too big, it's more difficult. But at the same time, we are in November, and in November, in this league, nothing defined. So what happened in February, March, be careful.
That's Pep Guardiola talking about Manchester City and about Arsenal. And interestingly, Crook and I went to the game just before the international break against Liverpool. Manchester City were in awesome form, almost irrepressible. How do you think they'll get on against Newcastle?
He just looks like he's got his swagger back, doesn't he, Pep Guardiola? Looks very relaxed and enjoying the fact that his team are trying to reel in Arsenal at the top of the table. They were brilliant in that game against Liverpool. Jeremy Doku, in particular, impressed both of us. Newcastle, difficult team to read because obviously their away form has been terrible, but at home, only 3 teams have managed to beat them there, which was your stat from yesterday's podcast, which is why you're grinning, but it's good company to be keeping, isn't it? Liverpool, the champions, Barcelona, and Arsenal themselves, the league leaders. So it won't be easy, but I do think Manchester City will ultimately have too much. I think they'll win the game, and that will put scoreboard pressure on Arsenal going into Sunday's derby.
And knowing how Eddie Howe reacts to things like this, he mentioned in the build-up to the international break that it's the first time probably in 4 years that his team have been under sustained scrutiny, having had largely unprecedented success during that period. Because we know how he works and because we know how he operates, he's not going to settle for it for very long. And over the course of the international break, I'm sure he would be knuckling down trying to find a way to get that back. And Crook's right, their home form is pretty terrific. In fact, they've won 6 of 9 in all competitions, home and away, but they've won 7 of 10 at home. It is a real fortress. Can Manchester City withstand that pressure that comes with playing at St James's Park?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if Manchester City, look, I don't see them as the team they were 2 or 3 years ago yet. But I've said this before, and you both know what I think about Pep Guardiola. The empire has gone. The emperor's still there. He's building a new empire. And I tell you what, I thought it might take another season, but they're looking strong, aren't they? And I'm sure Arsenal fans are getting slightly worried if they do go to St James's Park and win and then make it 4-5 on the spin. Arsenal can't afford to drop off at all. I mean, Pep's obviously right. We're still in November. But you can still get yourself into a position where when it gets to squeaky bum time, it's the ones who have been there before and then gone on over the line and won the title that generally do that again. I said at the start of the season I fancied Arsenal. I still go with Arsenal. But there's no doubt about it. Yeah, I didn't see the drop-off from Liverpool quite so dramatic. But City are getting close to how they were a couple of years ago.
They've got a lovely run of games coming up, Manchester City. Fulham away, Sunderland at home, Palace away, Brentford and West Ham at home, Forest away. So if they do come through this test, they've got a big opportunity to go on a real winning run.
Are you judging Manchester City by standards of old or as they are now?
I think they were somewhere near back to those standards of old against Liverpool. As poor as Liverpool were, Manchester City had to take advantage, and they took full advantage.
Arsenal have got tougher on the fixtures by contrast, haven't they? Because they got Tottenham, then they got Bayern Munich, then they go away to Chelsea. Game day live will come from there in a week's time as well. Then they play Brentford live on talkSPORT on Wednesday the 3rd of December, and then live on talkSPORT again, they go away to Aston Villa. The early part of December and the late part of November is going to be crucial for them too. Newcastle, 5th last season, now 2 points short of the relegation zone. What do you put their relative struggles down to?
I think even though the performances weren't that bad at the start of the season, I think the Isak saga was a problem. I think Visser being injured has been an issue as well because Voltemada, he's come and he's actually done really well, but he's that number 9 that drops off rather than goes in behind. So Newcastle haven't really had that. Anthony Gordon's stats, he's a player I really like. And I would have him as a starter in the England side if he's fit and firing and scoring and making assists, but he just hasn't been doing that. I think the fullbacks being injured, Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall, has been a big issue. I think we all respect Dan Burn for the career that he's had. But again, I was there at the G-Tech, and when he comes up against pace as a left back, he's not a left back. There's a bit of an issue about the midfield. Those three are very, very good. Joel Linton, for me, hasn't really hit the heights this season.
Well, he's been injured as well, hasn't he?
He's been injured a lot, yeah. But it's almost as if they could do with an Elliot Anderson in there, couldn't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, the mix was brilliant last season. The Tonali, Joel Linton, Bruno Guimaraes sort of axis sort of really powered them through to the Champions League, I thought, especially Tonali dropping them to that sixth position. Now they've sort of had to sort of use the others to fill in the gaps. Miley's played quite well when he's come in, but that means that there's been a shift around. Bruno Guimaraes wants to play every single game and does, and he's very good at that. But they need that running power, that strength that Joe Linton gives them when he's at his very, very best. And they haven't quite found a replacement for that. Willock and Ramsey have done their best, but I'm not necessarily sure they're up to his level.
No, and also don't underestimate how the various summer sagas have taken its toll. Obviously, Isak cloud hanging over them was the big one, but they missed out on a lot of their top targets over the course of the summer. They spent a lot of money on Jacob Ramsey and Anthony Elanga in particular, who's really struggled to replicate the form that he showed at Forest last season.
Why has he struggled?
I don't know. I mean, he's obviously under Nuno, the tactics were absolutely superb. The aim was to just sit back and therefore you create space on the counter-attack, and that was perfect for him. Newcastle, especially at home, don't play like that. But actually, it's not just sort of the injuries. The new signings haven't really done particularly well. The Isak saga, the Visser, the Voltemada, completely different style. It's so black and white in terms of home and away. They're actually not combining the Champions League and the Premier League that badly, certainly not immediately afterwards. So it's almost then a mentality of, why are you playing so well at home when the fans are behind you? When, trust me, when you're playing at home, you have to be bang up for it. Otherwise, fans will let you know. Versus away from home, where, the away fans will support you through thick and thin, and they're almost there for the day out, and the game is a part of it. Eddie Howe has to be ruthless, and I have no doubt that although he gives this kind of nice guy image, he is ruthless. And look at what he did at West Ham as well with the substitutes he made there. But he's got to find a way to get them ticking away from home. That, as I say, the home form is not an issue. It's the away form. And they need Visser back. But again, a bit like Rodri, when you've been out for a period of time, Rodri's a lot longer. You can't just expect someone to come in and hit the ground running. It very rarely happens.
And then you've got the African Cup of Nations, so arguably they won't see the best of him until after that tournament.
Let's hear from Eddie Howe, who's been speaking this morning to the media about the home form.
It's a really tough fixture. We know Manchester City's qualities. We want a raucous St James's Park. The home support this season has been incredible. I think we've played well at home as well. So we're looking forward to the match. We have a lot to prove to ourselves, really, I think, after the last couple of away games in the Premier League, which have been really disappointing. So we're desperately keen to try and put that right and get our Premier League form back on track.
They're rarely out of games, even in those matches against Arsenal, Liverpool and Barcelona at home. They still had a big contribution, and they could have got something out. They should have got something out of that Liverpool game. They probably should have got something out of the Arsenal game as well. And they definitely competed with Barcelona. 2 moments of magic from Marcus Rashford doing the damage. No Dan Burney suspended tomorrow. Anthony Gordon should be okay. Missed international duty with an injury, but should be okay for the game. Nick Pope was concussed just before the international break. So it'll be interesting to see if he's back. And Joel Linton struggling with a little bit of injury. I hear Tino Livramento is pretty close to a comeback over the next couple of weeks as well. And that will be important for the balance of the team as well. Newcastle against Manchester City's 5:30 tomorrow night. By the way, tonight, massive game in the Championship, especially if you come from Lancashire. Preston North End against Blackburn Rovers kicks off at 8 o'clock. It's live on talkSPORT 2 tonight. Preston, who have had a really good start to the season. They're only 3 points off the top 2. Paul Heckingbottom's side denied a 4th consecutive victory at the Den just before the international break, despite taking the lead. But they have a very poor record at home against Blackburn. But it's always hot when those two meet. Preston against Blackburn tonight over on talkSPORT 2 at 8 o'clock. This is talkSPORT with Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Scott Minto. It's where the trade, with Selco Builders Warehouse, it's where the trade go.
and welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football.
Chance to win it! We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Las Vegas, baby, on talkSPORT.
Hello, thank you to our friends at Virgin Hotels Las Vegas. We're giving you the chance, and a friend, to win a trip of a lifetime to wonderful Las Vegas. Las Vegas is great, isn't it, Crook? We loved it in Las Vegas. We've had a great time in Las Vegas, haven't we?
Didn't we get a knock on the door from the hotel for being too loud?
What?
In Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas.
We did. That's when you know you've completed it.
We got told to wind it up because we were being too loud.
That was just before I fell asleep behind the bar, wasn't it?
Oh, what a night.
I was on last week with Sam Ellard, and he said, how would you describe it? I can't think. I just said, anything you want in the world, you can find it in Vegas.
Absolutely. Picture this. You and your best mate flying upper class from London to Vegas, checking into a luxury spa villa for 4 incredible nights at Virgin Hotels Las Vegas, cheering from the stands as the Raiders take on the Chiefs, and to top it all off, $5,000 in cash to play with. Clear your calendar, 2nd of Jan to 7th of Jan 2026. Nothing starts a new year like Vegas. Good luck.
21 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text WIN to 83338. Text at £2 plus standard network rate. Bill payer's permission required. Or call 03434239761. Calls are charged at standard rate. All entries must be received by the 28th of November at 4 p.m. This is a network promotion. Run across talkSPORT, Virgin Radio UK and Talk. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Yeah, Vegas is a great place no matter what time of year, but even better in January. Where will Liverpool be in January? Because Jamie Carragher says that Liverpool must turn to the transfer market in January to save their season, despite already spending over £400 million this summer. Liverpool emerged from the international break. They're 8 points adrift of Premier League leaders Arsenal. They take on Nottingham Forest at home this weekend. Ekitike, Isaac, Viertz, Frimpong, Kirkesh, Giovanni Leone, who's injured, all in the last transfer window. Carragher believes that further reinforcements are required in January. Danny Murphy this week advocated for them to go out and get Semenyo at the next opportunity. This is what he said on this programme.
In wider areas, you know, is Slot happy with what he's got?
Is Salah not enough there?
Well, Salah, when he's playing well and fit, of course he is. But he's not going to be there forever. So if you can get Semenyo, if you think his attributes add quality and a different option, you're going to be in the market for him at that price because he's so powerful.
What would you make of the acquisition of Antoine Semenyo? He was linked in the summer. In fact, Crookie did a story about it in the summer that they were interested in him. Does he fit the Liverpool system?
Yeah, I think he would. There has been a lot of money spent. I mean, close to £500 million in the summer.
And they brought a lot in there as well.
Oh, of course they did. But obviously, you know, tragically, what happened to Diogo Jota, I think, you know, you can't begin on and off the pitch to understand the loss of that. I think Luis Diaz has gone under the radar in terms of how good he was.
And how well he's playing for Bayern. Actually.
And how well he's playing for...
goal he scored the other night.
Absolutely. I think there's a danger, though, of just throwing money after money after money and not allowing players to sort of breathe and get used to life in Liverpool, life in the Premier League. I mean, what does that mean? What are we saying about Isak? What are we saying about Ekitike? What are we saying about Wirtz? What are we saying about Gakpo? What are we saying about Salah? You know, what are we saying about the players on the bench who can come on and do the business at the moment?
Is Semenyo not just an opportunity, though? Obviously, somebody that Richard Hughes knows well. He signed him for Bournemouth from Bristol City. We exclusively reported there was a release clause in his contract a few weeks ago. We now know that in January that release clause is 65 million. It drops to nearer 50 in the summer. You don't get an awful lot for that kind of money these days. And again, as we were talking about Manchester United, someone who's tried and tested in the Premier League, unlike Florian Wirtz.
Do you want to go into a situation, though, where you become a little bit like Chelsea and you've got this huge swell of players and you don't really know what to do with all of them?
I think that's an issue. But obviously it's one that Arne Slot is going to have to find a solution for. My view personally is you can never have enough good players at your disposal.
You need to be careful, though, to keep everybody happy. I mean, Pep even said at the end of last season, didn't he? He wanted a small squad. I mean, look, just on Semenyo, and I've spoken to people about him, and they say he's a fantastic guy, fantastic personality. He's powerful, he's balanced, he's strong, he's skillful, he's bow-footed. He wants to watch his clips back, so he wants to try and get better and better and better. He's happy to keep his width and understands the tactical side of the game, and to be quite contemporary as well. He has a long throw in him. So he's an excellent player, but I don't think that's what Liverpool need. I think they need Marc Guéhi. That's what I feel they needed. They needed him in the summer, and I think they need him even more now. And someone like, if I were Palace, I'd be holding on like anything and let him go on a free, because I believe they've got a great chance of winning the Europa Conference League, and what an historic season that would be again for them. And every position they finish higher is 2.5-3 million, so they can claw back some money they could possibly get there. For me, that's someone like him to shore up the defence, to make it look as if they're a little bit stronger. And Gravenberch getting to the form that he was last season, I think will then protect Liverpool defence.
But bearing in mind you've got to satisfy the working capital test, the liquidity test, the positive equity test, sustainability and systemic relevance rules.
Can we go to Crookie with that?
Why would you spend the money in January on Marc Guéhi when you know that he's available on a free in the summer?
Because questions are being asked now. Are they even going to finish in the top four?
It's a short-term fix for
let's
wonderful rules.
No, but let's see. I mean, he's not just a short-term fix. He's an 80 million pound footballer. He's an 80 million pound footballer that they could have got for 35 million, but for things going on elsewhere. And if they had put down 40, 45, they probably got to go him straight away. And yet, what do we think the problems are with Liverpool right now?
I don't think Liverpool are in any kind of financial situation, because they went for a couple of transfer windows, didn't they?
Without spending anything.
Didn't spend anything. And actually, you look at their net spend, which is what I was talking about. Their net spend in this summer transfer window was £218 million less than Arsenal. So I think they have got the funds.
Yeah. So I would bring in Marc Guéhi rather than Antoine Semenyo.
Because Van Dijk and Kanate have been vulnerable.
Absolutely. I mean, Kanate in particular. But what about Guéhi? Is he set on going to Liverpool?
No, not necessarily.
Because I heard that there might be another move in the offing if he...
Well, the big clubs in Europe are looking at him. Although there was a story a couple of weeks ago suggesting Real Madrid saw themselves as favourites. That was shot down by our sources close to Marc Guéhi. Bayern Munich have been mentioned. I'd imagine that Chelsea could do with a Marc Guéhi. Obviously, there's history there as well. So, unlike in the summer, certainly if we get to next summer and he's a free agent, Liverpool are not going to have a free hit it, are they?
Exactly. Another reason why you want to try and get him in January rather than next season, because it sounds good, free, doesn't it? But how many would come in for Marc Guéhi on a free contract?
I don't think that he'll go to Chelsea, will he? I mean, Chelsea don't usually go back and spend huge amounts of money on a player that they could have had rather cheaply beforehand.
Just on Semenyo, by the way, what a story. And I've mentioned this before. What an advert for the EFL. The fact they took him from Bristol City. He had trials when he was younger at Arsenal, Tottenham, Millwall, rejected by Palace, nearly gave up the game altogether.
Yeah, but it's great, isn't it? Because that's what we want. We want the pyramid to be able to be a place where you can, flourish and come through into the Premier League and achieve. I mean, managers that do that often stick around for a lot longer, I find. Look at Eddie Howe, look at Sean Dyche, people that have come up from the EFL and into the Premier League, and they're usually sticking around for a lot longer. And I think it's excellent. It's a great success story. And he's been brilliant, by the way. At times unplayable. When he gets going, he gets wound up. He is very difficult to stop. And I think big clubs have found that.
26 goals in 92 Premier League games. Not bad for a wide player.
I just think it's a great lesson in life as well, isn't it, for people? We talk about role models, and I personally don't think footballers should be role models as such, but they are. We have to accept that. I mean, what a great role model.
You're our role model.
Yeah. we all wish to be you. That's why we both started following your fasting regime.
When you both grow up, you might be like me. Yeah.
Well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. we haven't got a track record of doing that, Scott. I'm going to be completely honest.
Well, to get the volume down in Vegas, I mean, I think that pretty much says it all, doesn't it, mate?
That was a few years ago now.
It wasn't that long ago.
You tell me off air why? Or...
Yeah, we'll tell you another time. Right, this is talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Scott Minto. The producer in my ear is saying break, break, break. So I'm going to do that now. When we come back, we'll be discussing more of this weekend's big football stories. We've got a whole weekend of great football for you on talkSPORT tonight. The Championship tomorrow, the Premier League. We're around the grounds with the great Adrian Durham tomorrow from 2:30, and then Crookie and I will be Game Day Live 1:30 on Sunday from the North London Derby.
The opening day of the Ashes in Perth has brought the lows and then the highs of Bazball cricket. England were bowled out for 172 in the shortest Ashes first innings since 1902, before Stokes took 5 wickets, with Jofra Archer and Bryden Cast taking 2 each. The hosts were stumped at 123 for 9 and now trail the visitors by 49 runs. Steve Harmison's been impressed with what he's seen so far.
Every single one of them England bowlers has not missed their length or line or anything on that surface. There's been a bit in it, but I tell you what, they've bowled absolutely magnificent as a group.
Elsewhere today, Arne Slot's going to be without Connor Bradley and Florian Wirtz in Liverpool's clash against Nottingham Forest tomorrow. The pair both have muscle injuries, with fullback Bradley expected to be out for the next 3 weeks. The Liverpool boss says he's not even thinking about the title race at the moment.
We didn't do this last season as well when we were top of the league. It's just about the next game. And I've said many times last season, and I say this season again as well, the best way to judge a league table is after 38 games, but the next best thing, in my opinion, is after 19 games.
Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Chelsea fans are going to have to wait a little longer for Cole Palmer's return. He's missing the next 3 games after breaking his toe. And could a glitzy new stadium be enough to lure Jude Bellingham back to the Midlands? Birmingham chairman Tom Wagner is hoping so. They've released plans to build a new 62,000-seater stadium as part of a multi-billion-pound redevelopment in the city. There's more at talksport.com.
This is talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface. Crookmeister is here. And
Aye, Captain. He's trying to get himself an honorary title.
Shut up, for God's sakes. People don't care about this stuff. Why are you such a nightmare?
I do. Go on, what's happening?
Oh, here we go.
One of the newsreaders wants him to be an honorary what?
Our colleague, Emma Kerwin,
wants you to do what?
We are in discussions about helping out with one of her interests.
And about you becoming a corporal?
No.
Commander?
Commodore.
Commodore!
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, a uniform and everything. Anyway.
He's already faked a degree.
God, I didn't fake a degree. It was a doctorate. The Autumn Nation series is drawing to a close after some exciting rounds.
I call him a lot.
Exciting rounds of rugby. This Saturday, Wales host New Zealand. Ireland. Here's Alfie Reynolds with the latest for the England cap.
So England will finish their 2025 by hosting Argentina at Twickenham on Sunday. Steve Borthwick's side beat the All Blacks last weekend, but Argentina are a tough challenge. They regularly pick up big scalps and are a side that are continuing to improve.
Probably down to the fact that they've had a group of players that have been sort of in and around the squad for 4 or 5 years now. So they're very close as a team. They obviously go to Rugby Championship together. A lot of them meet up in London who are playing in sort of the London clubs. So I think the way that they've built their squad has been brilliant. And obviously, as you said, they've had some good wins and we know how dangerous they are.
That's the England winger Elliot Daly. He's one of 6 changes for England ahead of their final match of the year. Alex Coles remains in the team in the second row, and he was also a part of the England squad that toured Argentina this summer. They won both test matches despite missing a big chunk of their players who were away with the British and Irish Lions tour. But as Alex Coles has been speaking to talkSPORT and telling us this week, Argentina are certainly a side they're not underestimating.
They pose a really dangerous threat. Something we've spoken about is they're capable of sort of testing us all across the pitch. They've got a really strong maul. They're very dangerous in transition with some of their back three. They've got a good contestable kicking game. Like, they have got a lot of different facets of the game going well, and I think it's really important, you know, on the back of the result of the weekend, you know, how much can we back up our wins with another win? You know, how prepared can we be? How mentally resilient can we be to go again and bring the game to the Argentinians?
England have won 10 matches in a row. Their only defeat in 2025 so far was against Ireland in Dublin at the start of the Six Nations. On Sunday, will they make that 11 in a row, or is it going to be a disappointing end to what has been a brilliant year?
That was Alfie Reynolds talking about this weekend's rugby action. Crook was glued to that last week when he was off. A historic win, you were telling me.
Yeah, I was keeping tabs of it at Cheltenham. Just about remember that from the Saturday. But yeah, it was brilliant. Always good to beat New Zealand. Fantastic.
This weekend, of course, West Ham United in action once again. They go away to Bournemouth and the former club of Callum Wilson. And I just got a keen eye on what was happening with England in the last international break, because he still harbours hopes of making the squad for the World Cup. Now, you might think is just a little bit sort of ambitious, and he does know that some people think that that is delusional. This is what he told Alex Crook 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've retired myself from international football by any means. There's a World Cup around the corner, of course. I had my eye on that from the pre-season, so you're working hard towards it. But the most important thing for me was getting myself in the team, and then when you are given the opportunity, trying to take that and focusing week in, week out, that's the only thing that gets you into the England squad, as I've experienced many times before. And yeah, it's a long way to go until that squad's announced, and why not make a late charge for it? But it's very early days yet.
It was fascinating. I mean, apparently he's sort of obviously overcome quite a few setbacks, but he's been working with someone who's been telling him to write these things down in his journal. Psychologist is sort of trying to sort of shape his ambitions. He's got another aim, which is joining the 34 players who have joined the 100 club in the Premier League. He needs 10 more goals for that. Are both those aims achievable?
Well, I wrote last night, despite me working with Alex Crook and Sam Matterface today on the All Access podcast, I want to work with them again very soon. And look what happens. You know, dreams do come true.
Sense a little bit of sarcasm there, Scott, but go on.
Well, look, I mean, Crookie admitted just then he asked that question because I sort of told him to, because I did a Q&A at West Ham a few days earlier with him and Jared Bowen. And Jared Bowen, by the way, on and off the pitch, just a magnificent professional. If you're a manager or a fan of a club, you'd want someone like him in your team. Callum really interested me because I'd never met him before, and we asked the question about first of all, what's it like being in London? He said, well, if I was 23, there might be a bit of an issue. He said, but I'm 33 now. I sort of said, well, I was 23 in London. There was a bit of an issue. but
when you were 53, Scott, there was a bit of an issue, if I remember rightly.
No, but he came out with, and he mentioned about England, and it really kind of took me aback a little bit because I was surprised that he was thinking that. But I loved his attitude. He's like, well, why not?
But also because there is a paucity of options in that area.
Absolutely.
It may well be that someone from the very small pool with which he does belong, English, playing in the Premier League and qualified, will get the call up.
100%. And quick story, and I was told this on the day there, where the great result at Nottingham Forest, and Jared Bowen was on the ball. He'd gone past about 3 or 4 people. He'd gone in the box, and he was just about to shoot, and Callum Wilson took it off him, and he went just wide. And Callum got a little bit of stick for it. And someone said to him, you're getting a little bit of stick for that. He said, listen, he was in my office. He said, if you're in my office, I'm going to do what I need to do. And that kind of mentality, that kind of attitude was just absolutely brilliant, because you're in my office, you're in the box. If I've got a chance of scoring, I'm going to score. Yeah. Now, do I think he will be in the England squad come the end of the season? No, I don't. But do I think it can only help West Ham to have that kind of attitude? 100%. And I wouldn't rule it out if he gets to that 100 goals in the Premier League.
He's another one, like we were talking about Semenyo, who's done it the hard way. He was at Coventry, he was loaned out to Kettering and played non-league football for Tamworth. Bournemouth paid a lot of money for him. He scored the goals to get them into the Premier League. His Premier League record is decent. And obviously he's had that little taste with England from the 2002 World Cup. I agree with Scott. I don't think he'll make the cut, but certainly he's got the right mindset to put himself in the frame.
Yeah, he's not that old. It wasn't 2002, it was 2022. But
that's the one.
But there are other contenders, aren't there? There are other players that are in and around the same sort of age bracket. Danny Welbeck was mentioned, and something that Thomas Tuchel addressed when we spoke to him just before the Serbia game. He knows Danny, he knows what he's like to play, so he didn't need to call him up. And he did say in the post-match press conference after the Serbia game, really late into the night, this is like almost 11:15 at night, when I think a lot of people just sort of done their watching for the night. Right at the very end, the last question of the press conference, someone says to him about the idea of going to a World Cup with the strikers. Would you have we would definitely take a backup to Kane. He says, I'm definitely taking a backup to Kane. It's inconceivable that we'll go without a orthodox number 9 that's an alternative to Harry. He said, but I do have something else up my sleeve, but I'm not going to tell you about it now. And like immediately my mind started going, well, what's that then? What's that then? And he did mention a couple of names that were outside the box. And you just think...
Who did he mention?
He mentioned Welbeck. And he also mentioned somebody else as well, and the name escapes me now. But he was basically saying that the door is not closed for anyone, and that there is a possibility that he could pluck someone and put them straight in. That was sort of the tone of the conversation.
I think whether he genuinely believes that or not, and I think he does, you should always have it open for players to think there's a chance I could get in, towards the end of the season. Look, if Callum Wilson or Danny Welbeck score 10, 15 goals from here on in, then who's to say that they shouldn't be in that particular squad? They've got to do that first. Does he mean even a possible false nine as he's spoken about? I know that for him would be an option. But there is no, even Ollie Watkins, who was perceived to be the number 2. It's not happened for him this season. There's a player I really like. It's not happened for him for whatever reason. So for anybody who thinks they've got a chance of scoring 10, 15 goals from here on in, then they could be that number 2 for Harry.
I think if Liam Delap can get fit and he can get scoring goals, I think that could be a good fit.
It could. But one, he's got to get fit. 2, don't get sent off.
Well,
when you come on
the problem there is that he hasn't had any experience of international football, and when he has, been integrated into new scenarios, he's found it difficult to adjust to that. He's very robust and very physical. I mean, look at Chelsea. He's been sent off. At Ipswich, he was sent off as well.
Yeah,
he
didn't play in the under-21 tournament, did he? Because he wanted to sort of be with Chelsea. So in terms of that international, fine. But still, if Liam is able to again be a regular for Chelsea, score goals, and maybe take them to even 3rd place in the Premier League and maybe deep in the Champions League and win a domestic cup, every chance for him.
But Callum's got a great chance because he will be playing week in, week out for the foreseeable future as the number 9 for West Ham.
If he stays fit. And unfortunately, that's quite a big if when it comes to Callum.
Well, he says that a week is a long time in football, let alone 6 months. In my head, I still believe until the final squad is named, then I have a run of games. I can put my best foot forward. It might seem far-fetched, but football changes quickly. Good luck to him. Good luck to him. Why not? And let's hope that they do come up with a bit of a wild card. It'd be quite fascinating, I think. Right, okay, coming up in the next section of the programme, we will talk a little bit about Rob Edwards, and we'll open a box of tricks.
and welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football.
Chance to win it! Oh! We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology.
How would you get to that conclusion?
That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
This is talkSPORT. Sam Matterface, Scott Minto, and Alex Crook with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. We're here till 1 o'clock. And as we mentioned, it is one of our assistant producers' birthday today. So we're taking him for a drink, we are, aren't we? You're going to buy, aren't you, this week?
I just bought a coffee, so I think it's back on you again.
Oh, right. Okay, there's a shock.
The $1 Million Man's pulled out.
You know me, I love a drink, but yeah, can't.
Not today. Okay.
Maybe referee Joe might break the habit of a lifetime and buy a round.
I don't know. Yeah. Right, okay. Rob Edwards returns today as the manager of Wolverhampton Wanderers. They take on Crystal Palace in his first home match on Saturday. They've only collected 2 points in 11 games. And look, no team has ever been in a situation like this, had a new manager come in and survived. Can he buck the trend?
Probably not. I wish him well. I know that he thinks this Wolves team is better than the Luton team that he had in the Premier League, but I think they've given themselves too much to do, mainly because of how competitive it's going to be down at the bottom of the table. Sunderland are not going to get relegated. I still fear for Burnley and Leeds in terms of the newly promoted clubs, but they're capable of picking up results. It'll be interesting to see come January how much he's backed, because they do have a trend, Wolves, of not doing what they should do in the summer and then panicking when it comes to January, signing players and just about getting out of trouble. But I think he's probably been given too much to do.
I don't see it. I hope he does it. Wolves is I feel sorry for the fans there, because for years they've seen their team obviously come from the Championship up into the Premier League, finish 7th, and then suddenly it looks like the owners have kind of checked out for whatever reason. And we've discussed this before about sort of circling the drain, and at some point it's going to happen. I think this is the year. From a professional point of view, it doesn't make sense leaving Middlesbrough to go to Wolves. Which do you think of the two teams has the more chance of being in the Premier League next season? There's no guarantees Borough will be there, but I think Wolves won't. So I do hope he's sorted his contract out, because if you look at the fixtures he's got, this Palace game is absolutely crucial. There's Villa away, then there's Forest at home. So those two home games I think are crucial. You've got Manchester United twice and Arsenal and Liverpool away from home in December. So they could be even further apart than what they are now. So they're certainly hoping for the new manager bounce. I think in terms of one of their own, and he does make a little bit of a difference, but it's ultimately all about what you do on the pitch and getting wins, and I can't see them getting too many.
Well, they conceded so many goals over the course of the last few games. In the last 3 matches in the Premier League, they conceded 3 against Burnley, 3 against Fulham, 3 against Chelsea. If they do that this weekend against Crystal Palace, it'd be the first time that they have conceded 3 times in 4 consecutive matches. In September 1985, they were playing at the time in the 3rd tier of English football. What they don't want is to drop into the 2nd tier of English football. Where will they be on the opening day of next season? Adrian Durham takes you around the grounds this weekend, and they will feature Wolves against Crystal Palace. The opening day of next Premier League season is...
Go on.
The 22nd of August. It's just been announced in the last few minutes that they will start very late next year. I think because of the World Cup.
Absolutely.
It's about a month. It's about 5 weeks, actually, after the World Cup comes to its conclusion. The final round of matches will be on Sunday, the 30th of May. And the news is that it's 33... Actually, there you go. It will allow 89 days clear from the end of the current season, 33 days from the end of the World Cup final. The season will conclude 1 week prior to the UEFA Champions League final, which will be played on the Saturday, the 5th of June. Therefore, it will finish on the 30th of May. The season will have 33 weekends, 5 midweek rounds, and a full schedule on Boxing Day.
There you go.
Good.
Normal order is restored.
Normal order is restored. Talking of which, by the way, how hungry are you? Are you hungry? Yeah. Are you hungry?
Yeah, I'm a little bit hungry.
Do you fancy a sausage? This was the scene in our office this morning. If you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook on the Connected TV app, this morning, the biggest sausage of all was delivered, get this, a box of sausages.
And a pair of pants.
Alex Crook
with
got
some
a pair
chickens
of pants with chickens on them and a box of chicken sausages delivered to the office. He was very excited about the prospect of being given free sausages, Scott, but as soon as someone mentioned they were chicken sausages, he turned up his little nose.
Did he?
He wasn't happy about it. I like a chicken sausage.
I don't really care.
Yeah, you'll take any sausage.
They've got a new pair of tongs for the barbecue as well for next summer. I'll tell you what, referee Joe filmed this. He's a better cameraman than he's a producer.
Well, if you
that was a big box, Sam. That will last him all of.
Could I just say, right? If you have the pleasure of being able to watch this, if you don't have the pleasure, I'll describe it to you. But if you have the pleasure of being able to watch this, you'll notice that also in that box was a pair of boxer shorts, which as he pulled out, he looked at them in disdain and went, "You can have those, Matterface. I don't think he'll get round my thigh."
It's interesting, though.
They were a medium.
The company in question sent a box to myself and Simon Jordan. Why do they pick us two out?
Do they?
No message.
No message.
I know the biggest sausages out of those two. Definitely you. There you go. Do you want to thank them?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Do you know who the company is?
Heck.
Yes, Heck. It's all right.
I did have to check they weren't vegetarian sausages.
You wouldn't. They would have gone straight out the window, wouldn't they? You wouldn't have had that, would you?
The ref would have taken.
The ref would have taken them.
All over that.
The ref would
I noticed that was before he did his hair. He had a hissy fit.
He did have a hissy fit about that as well.
Where's the makeup?
He was actually
called. Look so manicured.
He was actually called by another one of our colleagues a diva earlier because having asked for makeup and hair to come and see him, after 10 minutes they hadn't arrived, and he turned around and said, "Where are they? Where are they?" He did.
And he stayed in the chair until she.
He did. He really did.
Big time.
So the diva, when you're back, you coming back next Friday? You going to bother with that one?
Yeah. Busy week next week. I think I've got games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. I'm joining your club. Working every night.
That's nice of you. And Scotty, we'll see you soon. And Premier League All Access Monday. You're going to do the...
I am going to do it. Coventry, West Brom tomorrow.
Oh, brilliant.
talkSPORT 2. So looking forward to that one.
Okay, that's 12:30 tomorrow.
Super Frank.
Go and see Super Frank's doing a very good job. At 12:30 tomorrow at the Championship. At the same time, we've got Burnley-Chelsea. Tonight, live action from Lancashire because we've got Preston against Blackburn. That's live on talkSPORT 2. Around the grounds with Adrian from 2:30 tomorrow. And on Sunday, the Crookmeister and I will be taking all of our chicken sausages to the North London derby. But we're not taking the tongs. We'll see you next week.